Nepal's Prime Minister holds all-party meeting as March 5 election nears. Top political leaders, election commission officials and security chiefs attend the meeting. Krishna Prasad Yadav appointed Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh Province Government. Seven-party alliance secures majority in the provincial parliament. Nepal seeks enhanced partnership for LDC's sustainable progress. Foreign Secretary Rai calls for financial and integrated assistance at high-level meeting. Nepal marks World Soil Day as new data shows over half of arable land unfit for farming. Soil quality raises food insecurity risks. Russia's President Putin offers India uninterrupted fuel supplies amid US pressure. Indian PM Modi and Putin to expand bilateral cooperation, and Lumni Lions chasing Janakpur Bowls 133 runs target in crucial Nepal Premier League clash. Hello there, I'm Smitugi Singh Thamang and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepali Standard Time. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo, and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. An all-party meeting called by Prime Minister Sushila Karki is currently underway at the Prime Minister's official residence in Baluatar, bringing together major political parties and key state institutions ahead of Nepal's upcoming national election. The Prime Minister's Secretariat stated that leaders from the Nepali Congress, CPN-UML, Nepali Communist Party, Rashtriya Prajatantra Party, Rashtriya Swatantra Party and other parties are participating. Officials from the Election Commission of Nepal and heads of national security agencies are also present. The meeting is focused primarily on preparations for the House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5, including security arrangements, election management and coordination among political stakeholders. The discussions come at a crucial time as Nepal works to ensure a smooth, peaceful and credible electoral process amid heightened political attention at home and increased interest from the international community. The Election Commission of Nepal has called on political parties wishing to contest under the Proportional Representation PR category for the House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5 to submit their applications. According to a notice issued today, parties must file applications between 10 a.m. on December 7 and 4 p.m. on December 9 as per the approved election schedule. The Commission has set up an election officer's office at its premises in Kantipath with Secretary Mahadev Pantha appointed as election officer. The list of applicant parties will be published on December 10. Parties applying under the PR system must submit their closed list of candidates on December 28 and 29 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., spokesperson Narayan Prasad Bhattrai said. The final publication of the PR closed list is scheduled for January 20, 2026. Under the first past the post FPTP schedule, nominations will be registered on January 20 with the candidate list published the same day. Objections can be filed on January 21, followed by publication of the updated list on January 22. Candidates may withdraw their names on January 23, after which the final list and election symbols will be issued. The Commission is simultaneously preparing for the National Assembly election on January 25 as political parties intensify their activities with 90 days remaining before the HOR elections. Krishna Prasad Yadav, the parliamentary party leader of Nepali Congress in Madhya Pradesh province, has been appointed the chief minister. Province Chief Dr. Surendra Lub appointed Yadav as the head of the government in accordance with Article 168, Clause 2 of Nepal's constitution. Yadav became chief minister with the backing of a seven-party coalition, which includes Nepali Congress, Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal, Janamat Party, CPN Maoist Center, Lokotantrik Samajwadi Party and CPN Unified Socialist, collectively commanding the support of 77 provincial assembly members. The new government formation process began after former Chief Minister Saroj Kumar Yadav of CPN-UML resigned on December 3, having previously been appointed under Article 168, Clause 3 as leader of the largest party. Earlier in November, his appointment was challenged by the seven-party alliance at the Supreme Court of Nepal, which registered 3 separate writ petitions. Hearing those petitions, the court issued an order on December 1 requiring then government to seek a vote of confidence within 24 hours. It further directed that if the government failed to secure that vote, a new government must be formed under Article 168(2). Following that directive, the province had invited parties to form a new government, resulting in Yadav's appointment as the new chief minister. Japan's ambassador to Nepal, Maida Toru, paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Sushila Karki today. Prime Minister's press coordinator Ram Bahadur Rawat said during the meeting held at the office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, matters relating to the celebration of the 70th anniversary of Nepal-Japan relations were discussed. On the occasion, the ambassador applauded the government's resolution to conduct fresh elections for the House of Representatives on the announced date, adding that the government of Japan is ready to extend all possible support to Nepal in its efforts to conduct the elections. In response, the Prime Minister thanked Japan for its contributions to Nepal's development sectors and other areas, expressing her confidence in the continuation of such support in the days to come. Nepal has stressed on the need of glorious journey towards building prosperous society and sustaining development when the least developed countries are transformed into the developing countries. Likewise, Nepal has laid emphasis on extending financial and integrated assistance to the LDCs. At the high-level discussion on Thursday, building a global partnership for the sustainable development of least developed countries, Foreign Secretary Amrit Bahadur Rai emphasized these issues as the chair of the LDC group. The meeting was organized in Doha by the Office of the United Nations High Representative for Least Developed, Landlocked Developed Countries and Small Island Developing States in the Qatar Fund. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, during the meeting, the Foreign Secretary met with Deodat Maharaj, Managing Director of the United Nations Technology Bank for the Least Developed Countries, and conveyed Nepal's expectations of support from the bank to facilitate Nepal's journey from a least developed to a developing country. On that occasion, they also discussed the role of the bank and opportunities for cooperation. Time for a short break now. We shall be right back after this break. You're watching NTV World Primetime News. Now the remaining updates. Nepal observed the 12th World Soil Day on December 5, with new data showing that more than 54% of the country's arable land is unsuitable for farming due to rising acidity, low organic matter and erosion. At an event in Kumaltar, experts warned that soil quality from the Tarai to the hills is deteriorating because of excessive chemical use and poor land management. They called for regular soil testing, organic fertilizers, crop rotation and erosion control measures to protect soil health. Subeksha Razak brings more on this.
In an agricultural country, Nepal, more than 54% of the arable land is unsuitable for farming. The date was revealed as the Global Market of the World Soil Day. The World Soil Day, celebrated every year on December 5th, aims to raise public awareness about the importance of sustainable soil management. Nepal, still an agricultural country, saw various programs organized under the national slogan, Healthy Soils for Healthy Cities. This year marks the 12th World Soil Day since its formal commencement in 2014. The theme highlights how healthy soil is the foundation for cities that can withstand climate change and support biodiversity. It addresses challenges like soil sealing, pollution, and urban expansion that threaten urban soils' benefits. It promotes solutions such as de-sealing, green roofs, urban farming, and sustainable urban planning to create greener and healthier cities. At a program held at National Soil Research Center, Kumaldar, experts pointed out major issues including use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers that is degrading the fertility of soil. Dr. Shri Prasad Vishta, Chief of the National Soil Science Research Center, said preserving healthy soil is the present challenge.
Soil is life and life is soil. Without soil, you cannot imagine any form of life on earth. So soil is the basis for the existence, for the life. So if we don't have good soil, if the soil is dead, that means there is no life on it. So in order to sustain life on earth, healthy soil is important. Generally, in order to make soil healthy, we have to, improve the organic matter content of the soil. We have to improve the water holding capacity of the soil. We have to improve porosity as well as all those physical as well as chemical and even the biological properties of the soil.
According to experts, the state of soil in Nepal is serious. Data from the digital soil map shows that nearly 54% of Nepal's arable land is acidic, which is not sustainable for farming. Similarly, the amount of organic matter is low in most places, which has weakened the soil's fertility. Soil erosion is another challenge that the hilly area of Nepal is prone to. Soil experts have emphasized the need for measures such as regular soil testing, use of organic fertilizers, adoption of scientific crop rotation, adoption of erosion control technology, and pollution control to improve soil health. Strengthening soil fertility and handing over healthy soil to future generation is the main essence of 12th World Soil Day.
Unseasonal rain and floods in October-November caused more than 6.5 billion Nepali rupees, which is approximately $49 million in losses to Nepal's agriculture sector. A development that experts say reinforces concerns raised on World Soil Day about the country's worsening soil health. According to the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, the biggest damage was to paddy, with over 30,841 hectares affected, resulting in an estimated 7% drop in national output. More than 1,300 hectares of vegetable crops were destroyed, along with losses in millet, sugarcane, cardamom, ginger, tea, coffee, pulses, fish and grasslands. The losses come just as soil scientists warned on World Soil Day that 54% of Nepal's arable land is acidic and soil fertility is deteriorating due to erosion, chemical overuse and climate-driven extreme weather. Today marks the 35th Memorial Day of Narayan Gopal Guruvacharya, who established his distinct name in the musical field of Nepal by giving voice to songs reflecting love, social values, life experience and cultural feelings. Narayan Gopal is revered from the title of Swar Samrat, literally translated as Voice King, in recognition of his magical voice and musical crafts. Songs like Lau Sunama Bhanchu, Mero Ram Kahani, Porki Base Aula Bhani, Timro Josto Mutu Mero Pani, among others, are popular among the people. The Narayan Gopal Music Fund, established at Maharajganj after the demise of the eminent playback singer and musician Narayan Gopal, organized various programs to commemorate him today. Countries across the globe marked International Volunteer Day on December 5, recognizing the role volunteers play in disaster response, social services and community resilience. With the theme Volunteering for Inclusive and Resilient Communities, the UN highlighted how volunteer work supports vulnerable populations and advances development goals. Events worldwide included cleanup drives, blood donations and ceremonies honoring community workers as global agencies called for stronger support and protection for volunteer networks. We're going for a quick break once again. Do stay with us. Vladimir Putin says Russia stands ready to provide uninterrupted shipments of fuel to India as Delhi faces pressure from Trump to stop buying Moscow's oil. Putin made his comments during a joint media briefing with PM Narendra Modi while on his visit to India. The US hit India with an additional 25% tariff over its purchases of Russian oil, arguing it was funding Moscow's war in Ukraine. Putin and Modi also held cooperation agreements signed before the briefing, with the Indian leader pointing to new consulates opening up in Russia. The visit comes against the backdrop of US efforts to broker peace, but Putin warned again on Thursday that Ukraine must withdraw from the Donbas region or Russia will seize it.
Энергетики Индии. Мы готовы и далее обеспечивать бесперебойную поставку.
China and France have pledged to expand cooperation on global challenges, including the war in Ukraine and international trade, as France prepares to assume the presidency of the Group of Seven G7 next year. French President Emmanuel Macron met with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday in Beijing as part of Macron's three-day state visit focused on diplomacy and economic relations. France is seeking to engage Beijing in efforts to reduce tensions in Ukraine following renewed diplomatic activity surrounding a US-backed peace initiative. Macron emphasized the importance of great power dialogue at a time of growing global instability. Macron added that he hopes China will support calls for a ceasefire in the form of a moratorium on strikes targeting critical infrastructure. Both leaders discussed strengthening cooperation on trade, climate policy, and global governance. 1 year after the ouster of former President Bashar al-Assad, Syria remains in a fragile transition marked by political uncertainty, economic hardship, and lingering security threats. A transitional administration backed by opposition groups and international partners is working to restore services, fight corruption, and prepare for the first national elections in 2 decades. However, divisions among political factions continue to slow reforms. Daily life remains difficult as infrastructure damage, inflation, and unemployment keep millions dependent on aid. Although major fighting has eased, armed groups still operate in several regions and border tensions threaten stability. Despite challenges, small signs of recovery are visible, with businesses reopening and community activities returning in parts of Aleppo and Homs. Analysts say Syria's progress now hinges on political compromise, sustained global support, and the public's ability to remain united. At the newly reopened Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, the leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo formally signed the Washington Accord, a peace agreement aimed at ending the escalating conflict in northeastern Congo. The accord commits both sides to a ceasefire, disarmament, and the return of displaced refugees. However, despite the signing ceremony in Washington, clashes continue between Congolese forces and M23, a rebel group widely believed to receive support from Rwanda, an allegation Kigali consistently denies. The White House hailed the deal as a breakthrough that could pave a way for stability and unlock economic opportunities in the Congo's mineral-rich northeast. But regional analysts warn that the agreement may prioritize U.S. geopolitical and economic interests, particularly in critical minerals, over a durable peace on the ground. Despite diplomatic optimism, the situation remains volatile, and observers say genuine stability will require enforcement mechanisms, regional trust building, and accountability for armed groups beyond the text of the accord. More on the international front next on NTV World Primetime News when we return after the break. We return with more on international front, but before that, let's take a short break. In Sri Lanka's central province of Kandy, a series of devastating landslides has transformed an entire village into what residents now describe as a mass burial ground with dozens feared buried alive. Among the survivors is electrician V.K. Muthukrishnan, who rushed to assist neighbors after a lightning-fast mudslide flattened a nearby home, only to watch helplessly as his own house was swept away minutes later. 6 houses were completely destroyed in the disaster, he told, noting that several victims remain missing beneath the debris. The tragedy forms part of a wider national emergency, with at least 481 people killed across the country as relentless torrential rains triggered by Cyclone Detwa continue to unleash floods, mudslides and widespread destruction. Rescue teams and military personnel are struggling to reach isolated communities, while authorities warn that the full scale of the devastation is still emerging. The Shenzhou 21 crew is scheduled to carry out their first extravehicular activity in the coming days, pending for suitable conditions, the China Manned Space Agency CMSA said on Thursday. Since entering the China Space Station complex on November 1, the Shenzhou 21 crew has completed handover procedures with the Shenzhou 20 crew, carried out station maintenance, emergency supply inspections and organization, and finished daily life and health support tasks. They also performed a full system emergency pressure drill and on-orbit robotic arm training while steadily advancing a series of space science experiments and tests. In addition, the crew welcomed the arrival of the Shenzhou 22 spacecraft, completing product compatibility checks and organizing uplinked supplies. The CMSA said the space station is operating in a stable and smooth manner, and the Shenzhou 21 crew, while in good condition, is fully prepared for the upcoming spacewalk. Young performers from several leading music institutions in Turkmenistan came together for a large joint symphony concert marking the 30th anniversary of Turkmenistan's neutrality. The orchestra included students from the Danatar Ovizov Specialized Music School at the National Conservatory, the Specialized Boarding Music School and Children's Art Schools in the capital Ashgabat, as well as the nearby planned city of Arkadagh. The concert featured a wide-ranging program that combined national compositions with well-known international classical pieces. Performances by soloists, ensembles, a choir, and the full symphony orchestra highlighted themes of peace, friendship, cultural identity, and national pride.
Konya'nın 4. bölümünün yani.
Now the sports update. The second edition of the Nepal Premier League NPL witnessed a crucial clash where Lumbini Lions defeated Janakpur Bulls by 4 wickets with 5 balls remaining. At the match held at TU Cricket Ground in Kirtipur, Janakpur had won the toss and opted to bat first. For Lumbini, today's game was a must-win to secure a place in the playoffs. A victory for Janakpur would have taken them to 4 points, keeping the competition wide open heading into the final round. The tournament, which began on 17 November, features 8 participating teams and is now entering its decisive phase. Preparations are underway outside the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. on the eve of the FIFA 2026 World Cup draw, the first edition to feature 48 teams. A final technical checks and staging work are being completed for a ceremony expected to draw global attention as football's largest ever World Cup moves another step closer to kickoff. The most logistically complex World Cup in history is being held across North America from June 11 to July 19 and will feature 40 teams for the first time, 16 more than the 32 nations involved in Qatar in 2022. The Olympic flame for the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Games has arrived in Italy. An airplane carrying the flame landed at an airport outside Rome on Thursday. The flame was lit in Olympia, Greece last month. Organizing committee chief of the Milano Cortina Games, Giovanni Malago, and gold medalist in tennis doubles at the Paris Games, Jasmine Paolini, stepped off the airplane carrying the lantern that holds the flame. Paolini told reporters she is honored to be holding the flame. Later, the flame was displayed in a ceremony attended by President Sergio Mattarella at the presidential palace. A torch relay will start in Rome on Saturday and reach Milan for the opening ceremony of the Games on February 6. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Nepal's Prime Minister holds all-party meeting as March 5 election nears. Top political leaders, election commission officials and security chiefs attend the meeting. Krishna Prasad Yadav appointed Chief Minister of Madhya Province government. Seven-party alliance secures majority in the provincial parliament. Nepal seeks enhanced partnership for LDC's sustainable progress. Foreign Secretary Rai calls for financial and integrated assistance at high level. Nepal marks World Soil Day as new data shows over half of arable land unfit for farming. Russia's President Putin offers India uninterrupted fuel supplies amid US pressure, and Lumbini Lions defeat Janakpur Balls by 4 wickets in a crucial Nepal Premier League clash. And that's it for this edition of NTV World Primetime News. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, www.nepaltelevision.com. I'm Smithu Gising Tamang. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting, PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World. Facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it.
NTV World. Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands.
Reporting for public service broadcasting.
Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Intermittent playing hide and seek with the folk, enchanting one's heart with the sight of fully bloomed rhododendrons, and rejoicing in the lap of nature with the chirping of the birds. When you set foot in Sandakpur, you experience a wonderful feeling of heavenly bliss right here on earth. Due to the ever-changing weather and the snow-white mountains visible right in front of your eyes, Sandakpur constantly draws everyone's heart towards it. As a habitat for numerous species of birds and endangered wildlife, Sandakpur always leaves an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all. Situated at an altitude of 3,636 meters above the sea level, Sandakpur is located at Ward 2 and 4 of Sandakpur Rural Municipality in Nepal's eastern Ilam district. Embracing the mountains of Nepal, India and Bhutan, Sandakpur is the only place in South Asia where one can observe the Himalayas of all three countries. While enjoying the Himalayan settlements, one can observe the sunrise and sunset from Sandakpur. It is the only place in Nepal from where over 60 mountain peaks, including the Mount Everest, Kanchenjunga, Makalu, Pathivara and Kumbhakarna can be seen from one spot. Being the source of the holy Mai River, one of the 4 major rivers in Ilam, Sandakpur is also revered from a religious standpoint, attracting pilgrims from Sandakpur Ridge. The settlements of Ilam, Jhapa and West Bengal of India seem so close that it feels like you could hold them in the palm of your hand. The crimson glow of the sun rising from the Bay of Bengal in the morning, glittering upon the mountains. The joy of witnessing this form such a height is majestic. That is why in winter for the snow and during the monsoon for the rain, the number of visitors from both home and abroad to Sandakpur is on the rise. Among the different species of rhododendrons found in Nepal, 36 can be spotted just along the Sandakpur trek. The rhododendrons blooming all over the forest captivate every heart. With the chirping of birds, the cliffside honeybees, and the opportunity to study endangered species like the red panda, vultures, while enjoying nature, Sandakpur journey has captivated trekkers from around the world. Every year, more than 150,000 tourists from India, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Europe visit Sandakpur. Known as the Bird's Eye Place, Sandakpur was declared a one province, one cultural village by Nepal government in 2018. However, the place still awaits infrastructures like drinking water, electricity and proper trekking trails. Sandakpur can be reached after a 42-kilometer ride from the Ilam headquarters via Mai Pokhari and Kalu Pokhari. Another route to Sandakpur is from Ilam Bazar via Biblate, Sulubung, Mabu and Kalu Pokhari. When trekking to Sandakpur, the highest point of the Mahabharata range, the joy of staying in the homestays and hotels along the way while savoring local cuisine is immeasurable. While forging a connection with the Himalayan settlements, enjoying herbs and local produce, and playing in the snow in winter and the rain during the monsoon, you must visit Sandakpur at least once in your life.
private education and public education, we're clearly creating two different sorts of human resource. And then it ultimately culminates into sending two types of workforces as well. We're creating workforces one for the Gulf nations that solely work to make a living, the other to the developed countries who either go there for education, higher education, or skilled jobs. Where are we lagging?
We are in a world where I think you wouldn't be in a position to say that nationalize everything, government should run all the schools, and then so all the private schools are shut down, and that's how you're gonna create equality. I think we've heard those kind of political, social, economic voices also, but that has not translated into reality. So what is the workable solution in that case? It's only that we improve the quality of public schools. It's only through improving the public school system that you can bridge that gap. What do you need to do? There are a lot of things. Invest in infrastructure, like healthcare we talked about. We need to improve the infrastructure of education. We need to continue to provide support to educators. With this recent change of federalism, there has again been the gap created where the school teachers feel there's lack of support system now than it used to be in the past, which is very unfortunate.
Mauritius is a small island in the heart of the Indian Ocean, where tourism is a major industry contributing significantly to the GDP of the island. Mauritius is home for 1.2 million of inhabitants, and today the country is targeting 2 million of tourism in the coming years, an economic opportunity as well as an environmental challenge for this tiny land.
Ce que nous faisons au niveau de la Tourism Authority, ça englobe dans la perspective du gouvernement, c'est d'aller vers une destination verte avec une certification reconnue d'ici 2030. Et nous sommes en train de travailler avec tous nos partenaires, avec les stakeholders de cette industrie. En termes d'emploi, donc nous comptons presque 30 000 emplois directs, mais si nous comptons au niveau aussi indirect, nous arrivons vers la barre des 100 000 personnes qui sont liées à ce secteur qui est très prépondérant, mais aussi très importante pour la vie sociale, la vie culturelle de l'île Maurice. Donc il est vrai qu'il faut être prudent dans ce que nous recherchons. Nous ne voulons certainement pas avoir une destination avec une situation de surtourisme qui arrive dans beaucoup de pays, dans beaucoup de destinations, où à ce moment-là, il devient ingérable de pouvoir contrôler un flux où le côté management et le côté destination ne peut soutenir. Donc tout ce qui se fait au niveau du développement, même au niveau du nombre de touristes, on peut avoir les normes très valorisants, 2 millions, 3 millions, 4 millions, mais est-ce que cela va apporter un plus pour la destination? Ce qu'il faut comprendre et ce que nous essayons de passer comme message, c'est que le tourisme doit faire du bien à la destination avant et non pas l'inverse.
The hotel industry is a major player in the tourism sector, with more than 112 hotels around the island, amounting to more than 13,500 rooms. Thus, a sustainable tourism policy will shape the future of the industry.
Pour nous, aujourd'hui, nous créons un mouvement qui appelle le Positive Impact. L'idée hier, tout a commencé, la bonne attitude, il vient le premier hôtel éco-engagé du groupe Attitude. Nous avons envie de positionner ça l'hôtel-là différemment. Pourquoi? Parce que nous sommes très conscients qu'aujourd'hui, si nous ne prenons pas en compte l'environnement, touristes pas pour venir dans nos pays. Donc, on va trouver du monde pour voyager, sortir en Europe pour arriver à Maurice, et ensuite pour trouver des déchets, des saletés, partout l'eau, la plage, dans la mer. Donc nous décidons pour mettre beaucoup de pledges en place et le plus important pour nous ça a été d'enlever tout ce qui est plastique à usage unique à la vue de nos clients. Par exemple, aujourd'hui dans nos bandes la SAM, nous ne pas mettre du thé café d'ici parce qu'il y a dans un sachet plastique à usage unique. Nous venons avec un concept, une boutique en vrac, donc un bulk shop. Les clients rentrent dans le bulk shop, ils ont un petit pot en verre qui sont capables de remplir de café, de thé, de d'ici. Et nous, en même temps, ce qu'il nous fait en parallèle, nous prenons sa pot-là en bulk, nous avons un supplier. Toutes les chambres sont de gagner de l'eau à travers de l'eau chaude, à travers sa solar water panel. Nous offrons de la crème solaire à tous nos clients. Cette crème solaire, elle est fabriquée localement et avec des produits minéraux. Donc si vous servez la crème là ou dans l'océan, il ne pas abîme le monde marin. Nous avons d'autres actions aussi qui nous font, par exemple dans nos bulk shops, nous avons un filet bleu qui nous donne aux clients. Nous encourageons de prendre ça, de attacher ça avec le maillot. Je récupère tous les déchets que je trouve dans l'océan, ramène-les ici, et ici quand je ramène les, qui nous fait, nous séparons. Donc ce qui est capable d'être recyclé, nous avons les recycler. Ce qui n'est pas capable d'être recyclé, nous montrons comment nous sommes capables de faire dans nos éco-ateliers, comment nous sommes capables de faire une décoration avec. Donc beaucoup de clients peuvent venir aujourd'hui parce que de plus en plus, surtout en Europe ou même aux États-Unis, en Australie, les pays commencent à prendre de plus en plus d'ampleur d'être éco-engagés.
The hotel takes great pride in investing in a sustainable education and sensitization campaign to raise awareness and commitment from tourists as well as the local population.
Donc ce centre-là, c'est un centre qui est ouvert au public. Donc nous accueillons aussi bien les enfants et aussi les clients de l'hôtel. Et donc qui nous fait dans ce centre-là, donc c'est un centre éducatif et interactif et nous sensibilise Bandimoun à l'environnement. Donc nous sensibilisons pour protéger l'environnement marin et l'écosystème côtier également. Nous faisons une action concrète avec le client. Nous sensibilisons nos clients à la préservation de l'environnement. Qui action il a à faire liée à ce niveau pour qu'après, quand il aussi retourne dans ce pays, il a à continuer sa bonne action-là.
On va quand même d'autres années. C'est vraiment un outil qui nous sert vraiment pour éducatif, pour montrer les participants qui viennent, les visiteurs qui viennent vers nous, comment ils ont été dehors quand on a fait le snorkeling ou comment ils trouver. Comment tout peut vivre ensemble, en symbiose, les poissons, les corail, comment vivre ensemble. Alors imaginez une côte, nous trouvons une bouteille plastique qui peut flotter là. Il n'est pas beau joli. Alors c'est pour ça qu'il nous a vraiment, qui garde tout bien propre.
On immerge un hydrophone en bas de l'eau. Un hydrophone, c'est quoi? C'est pour en fait enregistrer le chant des baleines. Donc ce sont les baleines à bosse principalement et ces baleines mâles qui chantaient pendant la période de reproduction pour qu'ils nous gagnent d'informations sur les baleines à bosse, sur la reproduction. Et monte base de données d'un individu de tortues marines qui nous mène à Maurice. Donc ce sont des espèces migratrices et ce sont des espèces protégées. Vraiment un centre éducatif parce qu'il nous vient raise awareness avec nos clients pour que les clients prennent conscience de l'environnement et qu'il est important qu'il oui, nous vient dans une île, nous vient à Maurice, mais nous avons un écosystème riche. Nous avons beaucoup de coraux, nous avons de poissons et qu'il forme partie, il y a un acteur dans sa mouvement Positive Impact.
The footprint of the tourists on the island will equally influence the ecological path that the industry will choose.
Alors c'est quelque chose qui se développe aussi chez nous. On essaie, nous, à notre domicile, d'être éco-responsable. Et effectivement, quand on va à l'étranger et en voyage comme ça, c'est agréable de trouver un endroit aussi où on retrouve ces valeurs-là. Et même plus. Quand on fait des efforts chez nous, on se rend compte qu'à d'autres endroits, donc sur votre île aussi, vous faites aussi beaucoup d'efforts. Et c'est important de montrer ça et c'est important pour les touristes de respecter ça aussi. Je pense que les touristes, à l'avenir, feront de plus en plus attention aux endroits où ils vont et à la pollution.
To improve the sustainable commitment of the tourism industry, the Tourism Authority in Mauritius has launched on a yearly basis a Sustainable Tourism Award, which highlights and encourages best sustainable practices in all sectors of the industry.
Nous avons démarré le premier Sustainable Tourism Mauritius Awards
qui récompense l'effort qui a été fait par ces opérateurs-là, justement, pour aller dans la direction du tourisme durable. Et je dois dire que ça a été un succès, parce que l'année dernière, on a eu 115 participants, démontrer la volonté de presque la majorité des opérateurs touristiques mauriciens d'aller vers cet objectif de tourisme durable. Et je dois aussi préciser que le tourisme durable, ça ne concerne pas uniquement les opérateurs touristiques, ça concerne aussi la population.
Mauritius is aiming to secure a sustainable tourism certification, which will confirm the island's commitment towards sustainability. The first step towards that certification starts in a small village in the south, Belle-Ombre.
Nous voulons que la destination Maurice soit certifiée d'ici 2030, certifiée par la GST ici, la Global Sustainable Tourism Council. Alors, la région de Belle-Ombre nous sert comme cas pilote, donc pour faire cette certification de la destination, et nous voulons apprendre de Belle-Ombre, de ce qu'ils sont en train de faire de bien.
A sustainable approach in the tourism sector requires a sincere partnership between the various stakeholders, from the major players to the small villagers. Each one should work hand in hand to promote, engage, and also share the benefits derived from the industry.
On reste dans le village Saint-Martin, Belle-Ombre, petit village côtier, pêcheur et laboureur. Actuellement, on a 5 hôtels et beaucoup de monde pour gagner du travail, surtout Banzen. Et donc, du monde qui fait un petit entrepreneur, ça fait ça, bien aide nous. Au fait, les bizarres win, habitants aussi bizarres gagnants dans ces affaires-là. Nous apporte dans ces affaires-là, il y a un petit resto, un petit monde fait un petit manger tropical, un petit manger vraiment un petit manger pressé. Oui, mais ça marche bien, ça marche bien.
Today, the world is an island, and the sustainable tourism development of one region will, in the long run, share lights of sunshine to one and all.
Nous la casse, nous îles, nous la mer, nous les ciels, la nature qui entoure nous, reflète couleur nous les cœurs, sa même richesse qui nous vise à préserver, pour continuer à exister, sa même richesse nous vise à préserver, préserver.
Only after 6 decades of the institutional development of the now popular game of cricket did Nepal get the opportunity to play in the World Cup. Although cricket was introduced in Nepal during the Rana regime, the sport was confined to a limited number of people, namely the elite. It all started with equipment brought by students returning from their studies in Britain and India. Although Cricket Association of Nepal (CAN) was established in 1947, cricket remained centered among a few affluent individuals and in limited tournaments for a long time. Starting with the Bishnu Trophy in 1948, tournaments were limited to competitions like the Madan Memorial Sealed, Jugal Kishore Trophy, Rammani Trophy, and later the Jai Trophy. Even as the sport expanded outside Kathmandu Valley, it took decades for cricket to develop at the grassroots level. After the International Cricket Council (ICC) granted Nepal affiliate membership in 1988, Nepali cricket embarked on its international journey. The rule of mandatory participation in tournaments by the ICC and the Asian Cricket Council (ACC) opened doors to international competition for Nepal. After participating in the Under-19 Asian tournament in Hong Kong in 1996, Nepal has not looked back. Winning titles at the Asian and global levels, Nepali cricket team continues its journey towards the pinnacle of world cricket.
goes down the ground because he was given that line outside off stump. So the first boundary of the contest, a handsome one.
Initially confined to Turikhel in Kathmandu, many international tournaments were hosted in Nepal after an international standard ground was built in Kirtipur. Nepal has also shown its proactiveness in differently abled cricket tournaments like the T20 World Cup for the blind in 2012 and the Asian Cricket Tournament for the deaf. Nepali women's national cricket team has also achieved remarkable success in a short period of time. The latest addition in Nepali cricket is the floodlit Tribhuvan University Cricket Stadium and the Nepal Premier League that has provided opportunity for Nepali players to rub shoulders with world-class players.
Zero steps forward, 2 steps back. That is how many critics are describing the outcome of the 30th Conference of Parties, COP30, which concluded a few days ago in Belém, Brazil. The absence of the United States officially, one of the world's top 5 carbon emitters, from official negotiations has also raised serious questions about its stance on the climate crisis. To unpack what happened in Belém and to understand what the COP30 declaration really means for countries like Nepal, we are joined today on NTV World Insight by 2 distinguished climate experts who have represented Nepal on the global stage for many years. First, we welcome Raju Pandit Chetri, a long-time participant of the COP process, attending since 2007 and serving as part of Nepal's official delegation since 2013. He is the Executive Director of Prakriti Resources Center, which works on climate policy and environmentally responsible development, and he also coordinates climate finance issues for the Least Developed Countries LDC group. We're also joined by Manjit Thakal. He's the head of the LDC support team and the Director of Climate Analytics South Asia office. He serves as lead advisor to the chair of the LDC group in multilateral climate negotiations, providing high-level strategic support to LDC ministers and officials throughout the UN climate processes. Welcome to NTV World Insight to both of you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Let's start with Manjitji. How was your COP participation this time around compared to previous years, and how did it feel to you professionally and personally in there?
Thank you. It's always a new experience when we attend the COP. Obviously, this is the 30th session, and this time it was special also in a context that this was the 10th year anniversary of the Paris Agreement. Also, the world has been back to Brazil after about 3 decades where the world multilateralism on environment and climate change started. So in that context, it was very special, but also it was special in a context that the impact of climate change was growing rapidly, and it was a role for the international community to respond to the crisis. So we actively engaged throughout the process. We gave our best. The result does not only depend on us. There is a saying that everybody is equally unhappy with the outcome. So we have our share there as well. Thanks.
You've been to COP conferences since 2007, and this year we also marked 1 decade since the Paris Agreement. How was it for you?
Well, if you look at the experiences that I have had over a decade-long experience in this process, well, there was a high expectation from COP30, being that the convention, the climate change convention itself, was promulgated in Rio. Brazil was the one that hosted the Rio summit. So in that sense, we had a high expectation that Brazil would deliver a very high ambition in terms of addressing climate change. Given its very strong multilateral engagement, its diplomacy, the diplomatic clout that it has, we did have that quite big expectation. Also that given that Brazil is a southern country, a highly and one of the rapidly growing country, that expectation was obvious, especially from the poor and vulnerable countries like Nepal. But as also Manjit mentioned, that the outcome was very mediocre and not really special in the sense that it couldn't really put the world into 1.5 degree in a world that we are expecting. The average temperature would definitely rise beyond 1.5 degree given the scenarios that we are currently in. So in that sense, the urgency is growing, but the response is not up to the mark. So that's what I would say, given the context that we just came back from COP30.
We've been talking about 1.5 degrees for quite some time now, but it almost seems like the new normal is maybe perhaps 2 degrees. What do you think of it?
Yes, if you look at the objective of the Paris Agreement, it very clearly indicates going towards 2 degrees, but it also says that 1.5 degree is the ideal scenario for the world to really address climate change. Given that without reaching that means a lot of our mountains are going to be without glaciers. A lot of the island countries are going underwater. The coastal communities are going to suffer heavily. And our food security is going to be impacted heavily. And that in the sense, the climate disasters are just rapidly growing. So in that particular sense, we have no option but to really stick to 1.5 degree world. But very unfortunate. Now, almost around 80 countries submitted their nationally determined contribution. And the assessment done by the UN says that we are almost in 2.6 degree world, even if we implement all those NDCs. In that sense, 2 degrees seems like inevitable at the moment, but we also have a chance that if we do rapid emission cuts, we could achieve 1.5 degree, and the IPCC or the science has very clearly indicated towards that direction. So for a country like Nepal, 1.5 is the limit, I would say.
And we cannot take the 0.5 as a simple projection.
That just means that we are going to lose a lot of the lives and livelihood of many of our communities. It is going to push us towards further poverty, further impoverishment of our people, and losing our heritage like mountains and other cultural and other diversities. So it means that it's going to be very difficult. That for climate, 0.5 is very high. So we have to be very mindful about the even 0.1 degree rise in the global average temperature.
Manjitji, in order to stay in track with all our climate goals, we do have nationally determined contributions. We spoke in Sagarmatha Sambad as well, where the then Prime Minister released the third, version of NDC. How's the overall goals and projections, climate activities in the NDCs that we mentioned?
So for Nepal, despite being one of the lowest emitter, has been on a track submitting the regular NDC in terms of its timeline. So the one that we recently submitted in the eve of Sagarmatha Sambad was the third NDC with the timeline of the target to implement climate action up to 2035. It includes a target also to reduce carbon emission, even though we don't have that responsibility. But we also see it from the perspective that it's not only about the short-term immediate gain, it's also about the long-term investment in our policies. So for example, reducing emission from transport sector, electrifying the cooking even up to the rural household, that helps to boost our economy, and that helps to reduce the import of petroleum product. The NDC also includes the target that helps to expand the early warning system throughout the country, also helps to implement the adaptation plan or the loss and damage related activities. So this is a leadership that Nepal has demonstrated, despite being the lowest emitter and one of the country in the front line to climate change. That also gives us a very strong instance in the international front that if Nepal has done this, why can't other countries?
There are many other countries that still have yet to release their NDCs.
There are, in fact, also some of the largest emitter. There has been a regular follow-up mainly to the G20, the 20 largest economies, because the 20 largest economy hold almost 80% of the global emission. And if they can take a lead, if they can confront with the emission reduction plan, then that obviously will make a big change. Our emission reduction can only inspire others, but that's where the action needs to happen.
It's good that we're setting an example, but how practical do you think our NDC targets or activities are? And are our policies of government in line with the NDC ambitions?
No, I think we obviously get this criticism regularly that there are a lot of policies and less in terms of implementation. When we see it from the NDC perspective, this is something, a plan to present to the international community. It's also important to say that the climate plans are not only NDCs. There are many sectorial plans on the Agriculture Ministry, on the Energy Ministry, on women or the gender-related activities as well. So the NDC is a one package that we present to the international community as our contribution. There are low-hanging fruit, I would say, in terms of the target that we have set there. We could be more ambitious, but we have set the target that will help us to prove in terms of the international community that we can do that. Also, if you look at the NDC, about 20% of the investment will be put by Nepal. Again, despite we don't have that role, we don't have to, but that's the leadership that we have shown. But to realize the full NDC, all activities to be implemented, we obviously need an international cooperation, and that's where the role of the multilateral process, the role of the multilateral agreements comes in to help implement our climate action plan.
And a huge chunk of it is climate finance as well. Like he mentioned, 20% contribution from Nepal, the remaining from international, maybe big polluters, as polluters pay principle we talk about. But are we getting as much support as we should?
Well, if we want to really implement climate actions, whether it's related to mitigations or adaptation or loss and damage, climate finance is the tool that is going to drive actions in a country like ours. So, but when we talk about climate finance and seeking resources from the global community to really finance our actions, we're not begging, as often it comes on the news that Nepal is begging for resources and all. I think we have to move beyond that to very clearly state that this is the right of a country like ours to really take ambitious climate actions. Without international support, we will not be able to do what is needed. For instance, why I say this is a right for a country like Nepal, because if you look at the Convention of 1992, or if you look at the Paris Agreement of 2015, it very clearly says finance is one of the tools that the developed countries will have to provide developing countries in order to take their climate actions. So in that sense, we make we have presented our NDCs or national adaptation plans in a manner that we will receive international support in order to implement those. That's why we have conditionals and unconditional targets set in our NDCs and NAPs. That clearly means that we will not be able to achieve our actions without the support of the international communities. Of course, that international community, primarily the role is of the developed countries because they have the historical responsibility, they have the capabilities, they have the resources to support countries like ours. But then, of course, we wouldn't mind even if our neighboring countries like India or China and other developing countries who have the resources are able to help us in moving our targets forward. But climate finance is the tool that is going to help us drive our climate actions, at home.
It almost feels like it is out of control when we talk about support from outside. How capable are we ourselves locally to mitigate the impacts of climate change as of this moment?
Well, we'll have to see this from a broader perspective. Because Nepal alone has a very limited role to play, because we are a least developed country. We rely so much on the international aid for our own development. So in that particular context, we won't be able to invest very heavily in climate actions unless support is provided. But having said that, we'll have to see at the global scale. The globe is having now multifaceted problems, like we have wars, trade wars. The resources are just being diverted to other sectors rather than doing on climate actions. But having said that, whatever resources that has been received, Nepal is to implement those. But we do have an internal problem as well. For instance, one of the big issues that we have seen lately is the absorption capacity. Because this is just not related to the climate finance, but if you look at the total budget, development budget of Nepal, we have not been able to fully utilize our development budget because of our absorption capacity. And that has to do with our internal capacity, both at the federal, provincial, or the local level. So we'll have to work on multi-dimensional aspect about, while we are seeking resources from outside, how do you utilize that? How does the resources that is being received from international communities that really goes and addresses the need of the communities on the ground? What is the money being really received for? Are those communities really receiving the resources or not? Who gets the resources? Where does it get spent most? that part is a very critical aspect, and I do agree that at the moment we'll have to work heavily on our enabling environment to make those resources of best use.
Manjitji, we have been sending delegates to COP since many years now. What agendas did we table this time around? Were there any different from the previous COPs?
Sure. So broadly, it was three key priorities that were there for us. First, obviously, the limiting the temperature rise to 1.5 degree, as we discussed. For that, it's key to reduce the emission, and the science have said that compared to 2019 level, the emission must go 43% below by 2030. If we see it from the positive aspect, since the Paris Agreement, when the Paris Agreement was being signed, the emission, the temperature rise would have been lead to almost 4 degrees Celsius. Now, 10 years fast forward, as the countries have come forward with their climate action plan called NDCs, and if they all are implemented, we would be heading to around 2.6 or 7 degrees Celsius. So the improvements are happening, but that's not as per the need. That's not adequate, so we need to do more. So we made a very strong call in terms of limiting the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees so that it can help to save the melting of glaciers, the impact that we see with the change in rainfall pattern in agriculture and so on. The second was the climate finance, and more particularly the finance for adaptation in a form of grant with the easier access. Yes, and on that we supported the call from the least developed countries to triple adaptation finance compared to 2025 level by 2030. We got the tripling, but not exactly as we called for. The baseline is not clear, and also that the target up to 2030 has been expanded to 2035. The third, the key priority for us was about mountains, and I would say that compared to many other items, we were moderately successful this time to establish the agenda. The mountain has also been included in many of the discussion, but more particularly, we got a process set up to have a mountain as a permanent discussion forum in the future, which means because of the initiation taken by Nepal working together with Bhutan, Kyrgyzstan, and a number of other countries, we got an outcome that says in the next 6 months, in June, in the headquarters of the UN Climate Change Center in Bonn, a dialogue on mountain and climate change will be held. And one of the topics to be discussed there would be how the discussion related to mountain can be institutionalized in the UN climate change process. So there is more work to be done, but at least the step has been started. So broadly on three aspects, if we put together all, then on some we have made some progress, on some maybe it's a step backward, yes. So overall, maybe in terms of multilateralism, this was maybe a step forward in terms of the progress, but on few other issues, as you rightly said at the beginning, maybe it was a 0 step forward. Yeah.
Of the many countries that did not send official delegation to COP this time around, one of them was US, one of the biggest polluters in the world. And it probably is in line with the Trump administration's stance on climate change as well. Do you think the absence of such a powerful country has a telling impact on anything that comes out of the conference, for instance, the declaration itself?
So it's not only in terms of the outcome, but also in the discussion itself, in the negotiating room. No doubt, one of the country with the largest economy and with the highest, with the historical responsibility in terms of carbon emission, being absent in the room obviously makes her nervous, but also it has a consequences in the discussion as well. But this was not the first time as well. And then also, if we see it from the positive side, it was not the first time. And then the Paris Agreement has also shown how resilient it is. Despite one or the few countries getting out of the process, the agreement still exists. There is almost a full participation of the countries who has been supporting and has been engaging on this. No country followed the suit in terms of being out of the process. So this also proves that the multilateralism still exists, and then the world got together again to collectively respond to the climate crisis.
What would you say about it?
Well, definitely, US not being in the room was a bit of a shock to many, though we knew that US wasn't attending. Why I would stress on this is precisely because US being one of let's say the biggest historical emitter, with the highest historical responsibilities, with highest capacity to address climate change. Not just that, in a way to galvanize or to lead the entire world in terms of going forward with climate action. So their absence was surely felt very strongly in the room. But again, and this was one of the things that the Brazilian presidency was trying to relay the message that even without US, the multilateralism should function. The climate action must go ahead. There might be a follower later, but probably they'll come back in the future. But the world cannot wait just for US not to move forward. So in that sense, a lot of the other parties did realize the absence of US, but then there was a collective, ownership in a way to say that Paris Agreement is the now grounding agreement that we have at hand, and we'll need to go forward with that. And we hope that in the future that the US will realize that the importance of really addressing climate change, not just for the world but for itself as well, because given the current economic crisis, the trade and everything, with China rising in these different forms of renewable energy and all, even to compete on that, US will have to be on board at some point of time in the future.
Do you think climate finance was a little overshadowed? There was not much clarity when it comes to financing, right, from Belém Declaration. Do you think so?
So last year, when the COP29 was held in Baku in Azerbaijan, the entire COP was called Climate Finance COP. But this time in Belém, it was called Implementation COP, Truth and Implementation COP. So in that sense, we did not have very strong climate finance agenda itself. But it was the LDC group that really took forward on the issue of adaptation finance, of tripling the adaptation finance by 2030 was what was the ask for by 44 LDC countries. Basically, because if you want to reach 1.5 degree world, if you want to implement the NDCs or the adaptation plans without finance, that was not possible, especially for vulnerable countries and least developed countries like the LDC countries. So in that sense, we made two major calls there. One, to triple the adaptation finance by 2030 so that it is a continued progression from what we agreed in Glasgow COP in 2021, because that the mandate was expiring this year. So we wanted to have a continuity on that part. The second was we have a fund called Least Developed Countries Fund. And that is precisely for LDC countries. And only those countries can access adaptation finance from that particular fund. So we asked them to put $3 billion for up to 2030. Of course, we lost that battle in a way to say that we did not get that $3 billion in LDCF. And I was one of the persons really leading that from LDC's perspective. Other one was the tripling. We did get a kind of a wishy-washy language in that, but at least we have something to say that we call it. But it was very unfortunate that a lot of the other parties were, or let's say other groups, were more interested in issues like trade and how to shut down the ambition on mitigation and so on and so forth. That's why the climate finance was overshadowed this time in COP30.
Mm-hmm. While we talk about the LDCF, we're graduating next year. Mm-hmm. How's the scenario going to be like? Have we made the best use of being in a group? And how are we going to make use of the privileges that maybe come after the graduation?
I think it's a both way. It's not only we will be missing the group, but the group will also be missing us. At the global front in the New York, Nepal is the chair of the least developed country group. Nepal has also led the LDC group in the climate change in past. We have also been leading number of thematic negotiation in the climate change process as well. So the group obviously will be missing us. For us, obviously it will have an impact, and this is not only about the climate change. We have to look at it from the broader landscape. If we look at from the climate aspect, then there is a provision that we have made sure that even we graduate, if we have initiated the process of accessing the fund, if the formal process is started, then we can still access the resources for that particular project. Yes. But then I think we have to look at it from the broader perspective. There are challenges related to the trade restriction or the trade related access that we have get. There are also opportunities. Maybe we will be attracting more investment in future being graduated from the least developed country as we move forward. So I think both has to be evaluated as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. This question goes to both of you. First, maybe Manjit ji can address it. How much in climate finance has Nepal received and is receiving? And how many engagements through LDCF maybe? Mm-hmm.
No, that's interesting. So first, it also relates to the definition of climate finance. In the UN multilateral process, we have not yet agreed the definition of climate finance. Yes. So that means when we access the resources from any international fund, donor community, have we asked whether that is climate finance or not? Yes. And in many instances, we get the resources that's blended with other development resources, the ODA, the official development assistance, and so on. What we have counted as of now is the money that we have received from the climate dedicated funds, like the Green Climate Fund, the Least Developed Country Fund, and so on. Yes. If we look at the number from those funds, maybe the number will not go that high. Yes. But if we look at from the broader perspective, that the climate has always been linked to almost all of the development assistance that we get throughout the support. Yeah.
The same to you as well, but an added question of double counting.
Well, first, on your previous question about Nepal losing whether after graduation is, I often say that, once you graduate grade 10, SLC or whatever now we call it, if you go to grade 11, then we'll have to be prepared for grade 11. And we can't say, okay, I still want to give the exams for grade 10, right? So we have to look forward. So that means we have to look from varieties of angles, whether it's economic, social, cultural, all developing, but at the same time addressing climate change. We will lose out quite a lot in terms of funds from the Least Developed Countries Fund. Or on the other side, there's a very special recognition for a group like SIDS, Small Island Developing States and Least Developed Countries. That has been recognized in the convention and also in the Paris Agreement. So that kind of facility we will be losing out. But having said that, we'll also have the other opportunities to work with other actors to really invest in terms of low carbon pathways or adaptation actions and others. So I think we'll have to be positive in that sense. That's one thing. But the other part is now, developed countries always wants to give less, and countries like ours want to receive more. So we call this quite a lot about the double counting, because if you do agriculture intervention, it is very difficult to really say that, what is going for actually the agriculture and what is going for additionality of the climate impacts, because sometimes they blend so well that it's very difficult to differentiate. It's same for the infrastructures. But having said that, the responsibility of the developed countries to provide climate finance has been marked very well under the UN system. They report every 2 years how much they are willing to give to developing countries as a predictability. On the other hand, they also report every 2 years saying that how much they have actually provided. So for a country like Nepal, we will be able to see that how much they have actually really provided resources. So just from the, there are three aspects we receive climate finance from. One, we get it from the bilateral aid. Other one is the multilateral aids like World Bank, ADB and others. And third is the vertical multilateral funds like the Green Climate Fund or the GEF or Adaptation Fund and others. So in that sense, from the vertical climate funds, it appears that Nepal has received in the order of around $400 million up to now. But the problem is that, have we all received and really implement those? That is a different thing, because one thing is to pledge how much we're going to get, but how much the money comes into account and we invest on the ground, or let's say we put it to use on the communities, it's a different story again. So for climate finance, we'll have to see from various issues, because sometimes when you see, as long as the community, develops, because our objective is to have a low carbon and climate resilient development. So if it really focuses on that part, we should be quite positive towards that, because on the ground, it's very difficult to distinguish between what is development assistance and what is climate, because for the communities, we use the same kind of resources. But at the global level, the accounting has to be differentiated. That we have been very clear on that part. But I think we'll have to move in that direction to see that what are our priority areas, what we have said in NDCs, what we have said in NABs, are we getting resources to implement those or not? I think that is what really counts at the end of the day.
When we talk about climate finance, the funds that government receives, is there a clarity in the nature of finance that we receive?
Not yet. The thing is, as Manjit said, that we don't have a global definition of climate finance, and we don't have a national definition of climate finance. So we only have what we receive from the international assistance. So at the moment, the Ministry of Finance is working towards differentiating that. What is the ODA resources and what is the climate finance resources? This is precisely because now in reporting under the Paris Agreement, even the providers are supposed to say what is the climate finance and what is not, because they have to report that. And Nepal is also supposed to report every 2 years to say that how much resources we have received in terms of climate actions, or let's say climate finance. So we'll have to do that. So in that sense, that we'll have to work towards our accounting system to differentiate between the development and the climate finance.
I remember, I think it was COP26 maybe, listening to Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados then, her speech, and thinking how powerful leadership plays in conferences like these, and when we talk about issues that involve so many countries. Do you think our representation has been as powerful and effective?
Yeah, so for Nepal, as of now, it has been 5 times we have a head of state or the head of government level participation. The first one is starting from 2009 when I started the process, engaging as the government delegate. The then Prime Minister Madhav Kumar Nepal attended, and then after that, we had a representation as of now in many of the occasions. When the leaders attend, that gives a very positive signal that how seriously the country is looking at this topic. But then it's also very important for the negotiator, the technical team, to realize that in the negotiating room. Yes. So when the participation goes to the COP, there are different roles. One, those who go to negotiation inside the negotiating room, raise the country flag and talk about the issues, negotiate with other group. There are also participation who goes to speak on a side event outside the main event to showcase, to share the best practices that we have been doing. Also, the participations are there to have a bilateral meetings and outreach to get more resources to the country. There are also participation from NGOs and the media as well. So everybody have their equal role. But to have an impact in the negotiating room, that's a different skill, and that's something that helps us to build on this throughout, like in the coming years as well. So many things that we do in the negotiating room will be recorded, and that's how the outcome are being impacted.
At COP29, more than 1,700 of the participants were fossil fuel lobbyists. How telling is the impact of their presence?
Well, if we see the presence of fossil fuel lobbyists at COPs over the years, there's been a high degree of increase in their numbers. So this is a very telling story, and in a way to say that how impact they can really have in the final outcomes. Huge lobby, they are the ones with resources. They are the ones who are sitting around the table, maybe with a different kind of representation. That is also one of the reasons why the climate ambition or the outcomes during the COPs have not been so fruitful, because the leadership from countries like Nepal or LDCs or even island states have been weakened, because one of the strongest moral views that can really put forward are the groups like the Small Island Developing States and Least Developed Countries group. So, but for them to really fight against huge corporate interests is very difficult. Do we call for science? We call for 1.5 degree wall. We call for the implementation of the Paris Agreement with honoring the essence of that. But in fact, that actually is not happening. And the interest of the powerful fossil fuel lobby has always been very remarkable in terms of the outcomes. And you just mentioned about the Mia Mottley taking the leadership in the global stage. I think that also is quite telling, because for a country like Barbados to have a prime minister, a female prime minister with a population of less than 200,000 people, but the global stage calling and challenging those fossil fuel lobbyists or those companies, and then even asking for the reform of the entire international financial architecture, and taking forward something called Bridgetown Initiative on our leadership. I think that's a very strong message. But again, even with people and very strong leadership from the island states of Mia Mottley, there's been, I would say, to be very honest, the fight has been not on our side in terms of real climate action. But that does not mean that we have to give up. Even for a country like Nepal could do that in the future. But of course, it would be a bit naive to really compare Nepal and Mia Mottley's current status. But then if Nepal wants to have a leadership on mountain, we could do the similar thing. But then that leadership has to be shown not just by one political leader, but it has to be the agenda of the nation, so that our diplomatic community, our international Nepali diaspora, private sector, NGOs, indigenous people, gender, all sections of societies must work towards that direction. Otherwise, we will raise issues, but then they may not be heard, and it will be always the win of the fossil fuel lobbyists.
I don't know what it was like at COP30, but at COP29, like I mentioned earlier, fossil fuel lobbyists were more than 1,700 in participation. And the ratio against the vulnerable community representation was like 10 to 1. How was it like this time around there overall? And have we, Nepal, managed to properly represent the vulnerable communities, the indigenous population?
So compared to the previous COP, not the previous, but the recent COPs, obviously the participation was less this time. But I would say it was inclusive as well, in a sense, the participation from the government, participation from the civil society, also the indigenous community, the disabled community as well. So it was an interesting mix in terms of our participation, but then it's always a challenge. It's also because of the host this time was quite far. It was a bit expensive as well. The logistic was very complicated. Like sometime when we see from a distance, like this traveling to these meetings are like a luxury. Oh, you are traveling long and then all this, but it's a real trouble when you are there. The food options were extremely limited this time. We hardly had a lunch throughout the day, because it's very difficult to get the time, but also because the time you don't have a time to stay in a queue the entire day. And the accommodation were extremely complicated this time. There were cruise ships that were landed there nearby to the venue, and obviously like the cruise ships are better when you are going for the holidays. They are not better when you are there for a night sleep and then early morning again you go to the conference venue. So there were limitations, and that impacts the entire community, entire delegation. But I think despite that, Nepal was able to have a big impact, even having a smaller delegation this time.
May I ask how much Nepal government usually invests in conferences like COP for the delegation?
Yeah, so I think if you have read the many of the announcement by the government, it has been clearly mentioned that the delegation cannot travel. The delegation will not be authorized if it is investment or if it is a travel support from the government. This is quite irony from that sense, because if you want to make an impact at the global front, if you want to influence the global process, and if you want to feel proud saying that we raise a cause of mountain or we raise a cause of our vulnerability, and this will help to access resources, I think we also have to invest on this. I think the majority of our travel were supported by different communities. So the few of the travel we get at the government delegation are funded through the UN, because being a least developed country, that's also one benefit that we get. We will not get the similar level of travel support in future, but then also there are many other organizations who support the delegates from the least developed country, because it's not only the case of Nepal but similar in many other countries as well.
When we talk about just transition and not make a clear mention of fossil fuel in it, how do we go about like moving forward? Because there's going to be next COP, there's going to be next NDC, and then we have our net zero targets as well.
Yes, well, the concept of just transition precisely, emerged from countries where they heavily relied on fossil fuel export or extraction and selling that. So for those countries, in order to transition away from fossil fuel to clean energy was an issue. So, but then of course, this issue has now expanded to almost all the countries. And the whole idea is probably a country like Germany could transition with its own resources. But for a country like South Africa, for instance, or even Bangladesh or for Nepal, if it wants to move away from current use of fossil fuel to clean energy entirely, there's several elements about the just transition we'll have to take into consideration. One, about the financing itself. Who provides the resources to transition from one source of energy to the other source of energy? Other thing is you lose quite a lot of your jobs in the process. So how do you guarantee jobs when you transition away? Third part is, does the country really have the resources to do that? Because there are communities who have relied for generations into producing those coals, digging coals and going into that. That culture is there. So again, it's a cultural issue in that sense as well. So there are a number of issues when it comes to just transition. So the whole essence is now, there's been a huge issue also in COP30, because a lot of the European and other countries were putting taxes on countries who had high emission in production of goods, and they would have carbon taxes in borders. So it means that it was unjust for those countries exporting goods to developed countries because they were putting unilateral taxes on those aspects. So if you see from that perspective, we'll have to see that we will need time to transition from fossil fuel to clean energy. Because even for a country like Nepal, is it possible for us to move away from diesel, petrol by next 5 years? Well, I don't think that's possible. Because if we want to do that, we'll have to heavily invest in renewable energy. We'll have to transition all our vehicles and our whatever equipment that we have in industries and a lot of things. So I think taking that element into account is extremely important. And this has to, again, it goes back to giving preferences for countries like ours if we want to make NDCs implementable and meet the target with finances, with technology, with capacity enhancement, but at the same time also allowing the time frame to move from the source of one source to the other source, because this is a global issue. Probably there's now pick and choose kind of an issues. Some countries are getting more preferences than the others because of the trade. Countries have their own relationship in the trade. But again, the whole issue of just transition really comes when it implementing the NDCs and NAPs even going forward.
Manjit ji, where do you see Nepal can leverage its relation bilateral to help transition or support the just transition that we just talked about?
Yeah, so exactly. So the way the discussion started, it was more in terms of transitioning from petrol, coal to the clean energy. The context of Nepal is different. Our source of electricity is clean. In terms of the energy mix, it is still a biomass that dominates huge. 1/4 is almost the petroleum product in terms of the energy mix. So for us, it's about transitioning not only from the fossil fuel, maybe also leapfrogging from the biomass, not only to the LPG in terms of cooking, but maybe leapfrogging up to directly to the use of electric for cooking. So in that sense, what we are also trying to do in this multilateral process is that the just transition also has a country-specific context, and our context is different, and that's what we are trying to establish there, because more than I think 50% of energy still come from the biomass, and we don't have to really transition from the use of firewood to the LPG and then to the next step. The way the abundant hydropower that we have, maybe in terms of selling it in a cheaper rate, that's obviously more useful to use it at our home, yes, and then sell the excess energy. So that's how we have been looking at. But also there is a just transition context in the context of maybe the transport sector, where our transport system obviously is dominated by the petroleum fuel-led vehicles. But the interesting fact is also the way the target were set in the NDCs. In some of the cases, we have even overachieved the target in terms of electric vehicle sale. So the target in the NDC for Nepal is not about how many percentage of vehicle will be transformed to electric. It's about how many percentage of the cells will be electric in the certain year. So we had a target of almost 25% of public vehicle will be electric in 2025 compared to 2020. But now when we see the figure, the number was overachieved in terms of public transport. And that may be also because of the four-wheeler microbuses, electric microbus that we see on the different routes and so on. But I think that now it's also important that how do we help to formalize them? How do we now work on a quality, not only the quantity, and how we can continuously incentivize them so that the investment continues on the electric vehicle.
I just want to draw on what he mentioned. When it comes to polluting nations, big economies, it's a tricky position for them because it's about economy, it's about double-digit growth, it's about jobs. Does the same apply for Nepal?
So our case is different. So we keep on getting question that why Nepal net zero target is much before than our neighboring country. So we have set the target to have a net zero by 2045 compared to the neighboring country 2060 and 2070. And that's mainly because our source of electricity is clean. Yes, we didn't develop much compared to our neighboring nation, but now if we have to use a technology, there is a choice in front of us to use a cleaner technology or we go back to the traditional one. For example, we keep on hearing the political slogan to have a railway system from east to west and north to south. Even if you want a rail system run by coal, like the one that we see in the old Hollywood, Bollywood movie, we can't get that because that technology has transformed now. Yes, the electric bulb that we see in our house, even if we go to the market and try to find that fluorescent 100 or 200 watt bulb, we can't get that. The 4 watt or 5 watt lead, the bulb can easily light the entire room. Yes. So the technology has advanced, but it also that our mindset, our policy priority has to advance in that way. Yes. So there is an opportunity in front of us. It depends on the investment choice that we will make.
It almost sounds like we are transitioning knowingly or unknowingly, but is the speed of technology change up to par?
Well, if you maybe not in Nepal, but if you look at the global context now, the world has already set a mindset that they will have to transition away from the fossil fuel. That's given, because there are certain things that we will do by choice. Whether we make any intervention by choice or by force, because for many of the technological thing for us is, of course, it's also about efficiency, right? Because if you want, you pay less electricity bill, then you want efficient bulbs. By efficient electronic goods in your houses, right? So in that sense, we will advance that. And now, because of the Paris Agreement, a lot of the governments have started imposing very stringent, policy measures to produce energy efficient equipments. Whether you talk about the vehicles now, look at the sale of the electric cars, for instance, or you talk about e-cooking in our homes now, because we now gradually are forgetting about the even gas now in many of the houses. The technology has really advanced. And of course, now if you, on the one hand, if you do not allow to transition away from the fossil fuel in near future, that is going to continue to have pressure on the other side. But if you have that targets going forward, it's a competitive world, because it's just not about now the climate, but also about the market, about the trade. It's about how cheap or energy efficient energy that you produce. So there are a lot of elements in this sense. So I would say that the path that we're moving is in a very right direction. Probably the technology that is available internationally may take some time to come in the country, in Nepal, but then it's inevitable. It's going to make that happen here in the near future.
In your observation, are there any countries or communities that have been remarkable in doing all their climate activities that Nepal can adopt as well?
Well, I mean, I've not really seen that in the context of the Global South, but I did make a visit in Germany to see one of the, self-sufficient energy village, where the village itself produce energy, sold energy, make best use of the energy itself. Those already in the Western countries or even in China, those villages are already coming up. Here, because of our various other technology issue with the reliance on the electricity and all, that may be a bit of a challenge in terms of the energy systems. Of course, the adaptation is also again another side that we also need to work on. That again, because of poverty, because of various income and other various issues, it may take some time, but that is possible, because for a country like Nepal, we have huge amount of renewable energy sources. We have been importing we import about $2.25 billion of fossil fuel every year. We can minimize that to use our own resources in terms of cooking, in terms of lighting, in terms of transportation. There are a lot of opportunities exist. It's just the mindset. Probably in the current scenario, it might be a bit expensive, but we're going to benefit immensely in the near future. In the years to come. That investment, do you want to do in the future or do you want to do it right now? I think that is only the call that we'll have to make.
What has your observation been?
There are initiatives that many countries have taken. Long ago, our then Prime Minister visited Costa Rica after going through the UN General Summit in New York. And one of the remarkable work that they have done was they don't have an army in terms of and that was one of the arguments they put to reduce the investment. one, but also the wind energy, the other renewable form of energy that has been put in place is a remarkable example. There are a number of countries like Nepal and above in the list who have conserved the forest. One of our nearby country, Bhutan, has mentioned in their constitution that the forest cover will be more than 60%, and now they have more than 72%. There are many other countries in the list as well. So when we see all that from our perspective, we have done many positive things like conservation of forests that we feel proud. Yes, 46% above of our country territory is covered by forest. The remarkable work that we have done in terms of promoting the electric vehicle and more in terms of public electric vehicle. Also the technology, the early warning system that we have installed almost in all our major rivers across the country. But on the other side, we are also the country first in South Asia to establish the petroleum pipeline. We have also been exploring the petroleum in a context where the world have now started seeing that maybe that's not the right investment and may not be profitable. So I think we keep on sharing all the good stories that we have, the success stories, but I think we also have to be open in terms of the discussion at the domestic level. What are the right investment that needs to be done, which will make a sense for the future generation, so that the wrong investment that we do now, it will be the taxpayer, the young generation now, who will have to pay for it in the future. So that's the choice that we have to make now.
What are some of the wrong investments that you've seen?
As I said, I think there are a few. I think I feel more comfortable to talk about more of the right investment. Yes, but as I mentioned earlier about the petroleum pipeline, or every time when we want to make any development project, we see forest as something that kind of block or that doesn't allow the development project to go forward. I think there is always a right choice that we can make in terms of balancing the development and the forest conservation. So there, I think the list goes on.
It's always learning by doing, of course. What are your observations when we talk about wrong investments? Have there been any that we have made?
Well, for a country like Nepal, of course, there is a lot to do. We'll have to, really work on our infrastructure, agriculture, tourism. There are a lot of elements that we need to really work on. But having said that, if you see from one particular company's perspective and profit, there are a lot of hindrances in going forward. But if you look into Nepal as a country's economy, its culture, its people, the need that that needs to be sufficed for our own needs, I think we can really attain that sustainable development by working very closely in terms of being climate friendly, environment friendly, forest friendly. Our rivers being rivers friendly. In that all sense, we can have our infrastructures, energy, all our needs really being met. But it's a mindset whether we want to really promote that or not. Because if you see, you want to build the infrastructure and you see forest as a hindrance, then of course you see from that angle. You see that you can't build a hydropower in a national park. Then of course you see that as a national park as a hindrance. But also you have to see that what is our needs. Can we do our hydropower without going into the national parks? Or what is our need? Do you see the need for the people to be served, or do we see that hydropower to be developed so we can sell energy and get fees? I think the notion of sustainable development we have to really rethink, because for us now, hampering environment or not being climate friendly is not the right development. The sustainable development goals, we have these 17 goals and all, or even the climate actions that we have put forward, we have commitment to our Paris Agreement's objective to be in a low carbon and climate resilient development pathways. In order to go into that direction, we'll have to work with climate and environment in mind. Otherwise, of course, again, at some point of time, you'll have to undo the same thing that you have done. So that's not the right track.
Lastly, what have your key takeaways been from COP30? Moving ahead to COP31.
So the international process, the multilateral process, it has given a signal. There is so much that we can do there. We try to promote, as we said, our good practices and try to influence the global community in terms of the work that we want to do forward. But the action needs to happen at the local level. The action needs to happen through the national priorities. So there is much that we can do at home. And the country where the federal system has been more established now, more of our 700 over local government has much to do in terms of implementing the adaptation priorities. There is much that needs to be done in terms of the clean energy investment that we have been doing, transforming the transport sector, installing the early warning system in the major river as well as in the glaciers lake. So I think broadly, and also the investment choice that our local government, the federal government has to make. So with the lesson that we have learned from the international community, the more that we can do at home, that's how we can influence the international world to drive on the same path.
What about you?
For me, from COP30, I take three strong messages. One, that Paris Agreement is still alive, even without US coming on board, that the countries have really worked towards saying that Paris is the basis. We can make this happen. We can achieve the objective of what Paris has really set out, and we can build on that. That is one strong message that I've taken. The second one is it has given a very clear signal that multilateralism is still working. We have trust on the multilateral process. Even a country like Nepal can participate and be and engage in that international forum. But also a clear message to the business community, fossil fuel lobbyists or fossil fuel companies that you have to move away from fossil fuel economy. That signal is very clear. Now, when we take action is the matter of time. The third part is international forums are only signaling forums where you all can come together to commit something, to really say that this is what is the need and give a message. But of course, it is the countries that will have to work hard. If we want to serve our people, it is actions that we do home to really address climate change. I think those are the three messages that I take strongly from COP30.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on NTV World Insight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the decisions made in Belém do not just shape the future of one country or one region. They influence the trajectory of our entire planet. As the climate crisis deepens, the voices of vulnerable nations, scientists, youth, and civil society become ever more important in steering global action. To our viewers around the world, thank you for joining us on NTV World Insight. These conversations remind us that climate crisis is a shared challenge and progress depends on collective responsibility and cooperation across borders. We look forward to continuing this dialogue with you. Until next time. When I talked about remittance, how we receive a huge chunk of it, but we're not being able to properly utilize it so that we could materialize it into something productive. How do you see this whole thing?
Do you think any person who is in Gulf country, earning money, sending money to this country, feels proud of sending that money here? Maybe he does because he or she does because they are able to take care of their families, but it could be converted into a sense where you say that your contribution has helped this country develop so much. We have created this infrastructure, we have created this development initiative, and so you take that ownership. And wherever you are, whichever part of the world you are in, whatever contribution you have made, if you feel like, oh, my contribution is actually, in fact, wherever I am, it is contributing towards development of my country, that would be much better. And so there can be some creative and innovative ways of utilizing that remittance, and also proper communication of how it is being used to those people who are contributing is equally important, I think.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took part in summit in the capital of India, where trade and Western sanctions over the war in Ukraine loom large. Friday's summit is Putin's first visit to India since the start of Russia's full-fledged war on Ukraine in 2022 and comes as India is seeking a reprieve from punishing United States tariffs. Putin's visit comes as Moscow hopes to boost ties with India, already the top buyer of Russian arms. Officials have said they want to increase trade with India to $100 billion by 2030, up from an already all-time high of $68 billion in 2024. Friday's agenda began with a morning visit to Rashtrapati Bhavan, the presidential palace, for a meeting with India's ceremonial head of state, Draupadi Murmu. Murmu was joined by Modi in welcoming Putin with an honor guard ceremony. Putin and Modi then proceeded to hold meetings at the Hyderabad House complex. Russia and India have had a strategic partnership for 25 years, stretching back to Putin's first year in office as the country's head of state. However, the balancing act between maintaining ties with both the Russia and US has become more difficult in the wake of Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. 1 year after the overthrow of former President Bashar al-Assad, Syria continues to navigate a fragile and uncertain transition marked by political restructuring, social upheaval, and ongoing security challenges. The post-Assad period has brought both cautious hope and renewed instability as the country attempts to rebuild institutions weakened by more than a decade of conflict. The transitional administration, backed by a mix of opposition factions, local councils, and international partners, has taken charge of the governing key regions. Officials say their priorities include restoring basic services, combating corruption, and preparing the country for its first national elections in over 20 years. Despite these ambitions, deep divisions remain among political groups, many of whom disagree on the pace and framework of reforms. On the ground, daily life for Syrians remain difficult. Large segments of infrastructure, water networks, hospitals, schools and major roads are still in dire need of repair. Humanitarian agencies warn that millions depend on aid, with economic recovery slowed by inflation, unemployment and the lingering effects of wartime destruction. Security also remains fragile. Border tensions and regional power rivalries further complicate efforts to maintain peace. As Syria enters its second year without the rule of Assad, analysts say the country stands at a historic crossroads. The success of the transition will depend on political compromise, sustained international support, and the stability of Syrians to maintain unity in a landscape still scarred by war. In Sri Lanka's central province of Kandy, a series of devastating landslides has transformed an entire village into what residents now describe as a mass burial ground, with dozens feared buried alive. Among the survivors is electrician V.K. Muthukrishnan, who rushed to assist neighbors after a mudslide flattened a nearby home, only to watch helplessly as his own house was swept away minutes later. 6 houses were completely destroyed in the disaster, he told, noting that several victims remain missing beneath the debris. The tragedy forms a part of wider national emergency, with at least 481 people killed across the country as relentless torrential rains triggered by Cyclone Ditto continue to unleash floods, landslides and widespread destruction. Rescue teams and military personnel are struggling to reach isolated communities, while authorities warn that the full scale of the devastation is still emerging. Workers have started taking up devastated one from 4, which killed at least 159 people and displaced thousands more, was part of a planned and protective meeting installed as part of the state-wide renovation of the refuge standards systems. Investigators found that many documents covering the buildings are non-fire resistant, and evidence suggests that cheaper substandard materials and flammable foam boards used during renovations helped the fire spread rapidly. Allegations have emerged that contractors mixed compliant and non-compliant materials and falsified safety certificates to avoid detection. In response, the government has ordered all external netting on major maintenance sites, including over 200 private buildings and more than 10 public housing projects, to be removed by Saturday, with contractors responsible for the cost. Renovation work is being paused while authorities inspect netting materials, and tighter rules are being prepared, requiring on-site sampling and lab certification. So far, 21 people have been arrested in connection with the fire, including contractors and consultants accused of manslaughter and fraud.
Formé en fait. Moi je pense qu'on serait, qu'ils ont commencé à avoir des troubles d'érection. Voilà, je vous mettrai en lien. Aujourd'hui les bonbonnes qui sont utilisées, on va plutôt les retrouver sur les réseaux. De produire ça dans une usine. Donc il y a des gens qui font ça pendant des heures.
Investigators found several nitrous oxide canisters in the vehicle, prompting a formal probe into whether recreational use of the gas contributed to impaired driving. The crash comes weeks after a separate fatal collision in Lille, where police believe the driver had inhaled nitrous oxide before the driving. Experts warn that nitrous oxide, often misused recreationally because it's cheap, legal and easily available, can seriously impair reflexes, coordination, perception and judgment. Even after the initial high subsides, residual effects can persist and significantly degrade
Aujourd'hui, les dangers de la consommation au volant, c'est déjà l'effet euphorisant. On n'est plus le maître de soi, donc la conduite automobile nécessite d'avoir une certaine...
Oui, forcément, cache le ballon tout de suite, dans la poche, c'est facile.
De ce protoxyde d'azote, urgence numéro 1 dans la semaine, urgence numéro 2.
Faciliter les interventions et être assis sur une base juridique qui soit incontestable. Le vrai problème, c'est pas simplement les usagers, mais c'est en amont, c'est-à-dire toute la chaîne de vente.
Located in the Artuklu district of Mardin in Turkey's southeastern Anatolia region, Yardere waterfall has turned into a vibrant spectacle as autumn sets in. Known for captivating visitors with its natural beauty throughout the year, the waterfall now offers postcard-worthy scenes as the surrounding trees takes on shades of orange and red. Attracting nature enthusiasts and photographers, especially on weekends, Yardere waterfall has become one of the region's most popular natural destinations. Its fresh air, cool water, temperatures and tranquil atmosphere make it a perfect retreat for anyone looking to unwind in nature. The harmony created by the flowing water and the fallen leaves under the spell of autumn provides breathtaking moments, making Gyardere waterfall a must-see location during the season. Buildings and roads across South Korean capital Seoul were blanketed in white after the capital recorded its first snowfall of the winter season overnight, bringing both scenic beauty and significant disruption. The sudden drop in temperatures and steady snow showers left major intersections slippery, slowing early morning traffic and prompting cleanup crews to work through the night. Authorities in South Korea issued advisories urging commuters to use public transport where possible and to exercise caution on icy pavements. While the snowfall caused delays, many residents welcomed the season's first flake, sharing images of iconic landmarks transformed under a layer of fresh snow. Meteorologists have warned more cold spells may follow in the coming days as winter conditions begin to intensify across the region. Ireland, Spain, the Netherlands and Slovenia will boycott the 2026 Eurovision Song Contest after it was decided Israel could compete. They were among a number of countries who had called for Israel to be excluded over the war in Gaza and accusations of unfair voting practices. But at a meeting in Geneva where a vote was held on new safeguards, a large majority of members agreed there was no need for a further vote on participation and that Eurovision 2026 could proceed as planned, the European Broadcasting Union (EBU) said. Spanish broadcaster RTV, which had laid calls for a secret ballot on the issue, said the decision had increased its distrust of the festival's organization. Spain is one of Eurovision's big five countries along with France, Germany, Italy and the UK. Approximately 50 broadcasters attended an EBU meeting on Thursday to discuss the future of the contest, which is watched by more than 150 million people each year. US President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump took part in the annual National Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Philip Stark just held a broadcast marking the official start of the holiday season in the nation's capital. People gathered despite chilly weather as the first family illuminated the towering tree, accompanied by musical performances and remarks celebrating unity and tradition.
Is coming back to the USA, you see that very strongly. And remember, we have not only the 250 years, but we have, this is a big one, we have the World Cup.
As the tree lit up the night sky, thousands of spectators joined in applauding the symbolic opening of Washington's holiday festivities. The Senjo-21 crew is scheduled to carry out their first extravehicular activity in the coming days, pending for suitable conditions, the China Manned Space Agency (CMSA) had said. Since entering the China Space Station complex on November the 1st, the Senjo-21 crew has completed handover procedures with the Senjo-20 crew, carried out station maintenance, emergency supply inspections and organization, and finished daily life and health support tasks. They also performed a full system emergency pressure drill and on-orbit robotic arm training while steadily advancing a series of space science experiments and tests. In addition, the crew welcomed the arrival of the Senjo-22 spacecraft, completing product compatibility checks and organizing uplinked supplies. The CMSA said the space station is operating in a stable and smooth manner, and the Senjo-21 crew, while in good condition, is fully prepared for the upcoming spacewalk. And the Senjo-21 crew, while in good condition, is fully prepared for the upcoming spacewalk.
Dr. Koloni, as chair of AIN, you've spoken about regulatory frameworks that risk constraining the civil society. What, in your view, is the ideal balance between accountability and freedom of NGOs in Nepal?
The civil society organizations are given freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of advocacy, freedom of contributing into the legal process or lawmaking process in the country. So all of that. But at the same time, have a space for their self-regulatory mechanism. But at the same time, the organizations are accountable towards their own process, whether it is about auditing system, delivering impact on the areas that they have selected to work in.
Everest, I would say, is high, but it's easier to climb than Makalu. Makalu is a little bit technical. Kanchenjunga is very high. It's technical and it's isolated. Everest, you get internet on base camp all the time. Camp 2 is quite big. Camp 2, you get internet again. Now people even have internet on Camp 4. So I would say Everest is easier. It's higher, difficult for sure. But Makalu and Kanchenjunga are less climbed and they are definitely harder. Kanchenjunga was very hard. They have different challenges, but I think K2 is definitely more technical, more harder. So K2 has different challenges, but both mountains have different challenges. If I have to compare the two, K2 is more. I'm planning to climb Shishapangma in autumn because China sometimes doesn't give permits out. So it's better to climb when the permits are being given. And I'm planning to climb Dhaulagiri next year in spring. I always take one Sherpa, and I climbed in Nepal mostly with Imagine Nepal, one peak with 7 summits. I always go with one Sherpa because I think it's safer. I mean, when I send mostly, I just keep going. I don't need anybody, but if any emergency happens, then it's better to have a guide with you and a local guide who knows the mountain. I'm strong enough. Sometimes I'm just going by myself. I do need oxygen, so they carry it. But I am a mother of 2 small girls, so I will not climb without the help of Sherpa. It's something usually mothers, like I haven't seen any young mothers on the mountain, so it's not because it's not easy to leave your young kids. Anything can happen if you die, then who's going to look after the kids. But I have some sort of confidence. Maybe people will not agree, but I know I will come back down for my young girls. And usually people say, how can you leave your young girls behind? But when I'm on the mountain, I have a difficult moment. I think about my daughters, that my daughters need me, so I need to go back no matter what. So I put extra effort. I'm more focused just because I know I have 2 daughters home. So they've been my strength, not my weakness. I think collaboration is very important. Like you said, Pakistan and Nepal has most number of 8,000 meter peaks. We can learn a lot from Nepal when it comes to tourism, because we are very behind. Your economy, you get in your GDP, most of the revenue comes from tourism, and we have beautiful mountains like Nepal, but we don't get we have very minimal revenue that comes from tourism. So we can learn definitely from Nepal, and the process is like everything. When we get to Nepal, to when we get to base camp, to summit, back, and then out of the country, it's like I love the process in Nepal. We are very far behind, and but we have tourism potential. So I think we can collaborate in that sense, where we can learn from Nepal experience. I don't see many Nepalis in Pakistan, so I mean we should like promote tourism of Nepalis also, and Pakistanis coming also to each other's country. There's definitely room for improvement when it comes to collaboration between the 2 countries, and I know we love Nepali and Nepali also love us, so yeah, we need to make use of that. I think first time the process of coming in, because in Pakistan it was hard. Now it's improving. As soon as we come in, it was easy. People are really nice. I think most Nepali I met are nice, friendly. They know how to communicate, and yeah, I think that was the best part, the friendliness of the Nepali people and the kindness. Hardship for me personally is being away from family. So Kanchenjunga, for example, I said is isolated. It's very far from connectivity. So not being able to speak to the family, for example, was the hard. I mean, nothing that I had no difficulty from Nepal itself or the people from Nepal, but just being away from family and emotional difficulty.
Experience has always been good. Nepali, if I say Nepali, I would say like धेरै राम्रो छ. मलाई नेपालको टुरिज्म मेरो एक्सपिरियन्स धेरै मन पर्छ, खुसी लाग्छ नेपालमा. यस्तो घर जस्तो vibe हो. I've loved Nepal. This country has accepted me a lot, and it's a pleasure for me to be here always. If we talk about Nepal, I think it's more commercial, and I think the tourism in Nepal is like very fast in Pakistan, but now eventually in Pakistan it's growing as well. But if I compare Karakoram or Himalayas, Karakoram are more like steeper and more difficult, more technical to climb, and the specific region and the moving glaciers and everything that make them more difficult, and especially the change of weather. So I believe that the Karakorams are more difficult to climb. I've seen a lot of Sherpas in Nepal, in Pakistan, who come to climb a lot of mountains. Mero sabai sathihharu Nepalko, every season they come to K2 and Nanga Baba and Broad Peak to climb that mountain, and they are one of the elite climbers as well. So, in Pakistan, there is much respect to the Sherpas. In Pakistan is so good. Sherparu sabai धेरै मन पर्छ पाकिस्तानमा. यो जो सेम घर जस्तो लाग्छ. मलाई त 3वटा कन्ट्री त मन पर्छ. तिब्बतमा अलिकति गाह्रो छ, यसको पर्मिटको भिजाको अलिकति गाह्रो छ. अनि नेपालमा त इजी, पाकिस्तानमा इजी हो. मलाई त राम्रो लाग्छ. It's more like Nepal or Pakistan friendship expedition, something like that. And I think it's a great idea. It should be initiated. And we are up, me, Sarvaz, Naila, we are one of the Pakistani climbers, and yes, of course in Nepal there are a lot of climbers as well. So we can combine an expedition, we can launch it to Everest or K2, whatever it feels.
I climb Nanga Parvat solo, also Broad Peaks. Then K2 I have one Pakistani climbing partner. Sherpa in last one day, and Camp 4 to Camp 4, I use Sherpa. जिस कंपनी में मैं आया था उन्होंने कहा कि नहीं आप अकेले क्लाइंब कर सकते हैं लेकिन विंड बहुत ज़्यादा है, लेकिन आपको शेरपा लेके जाना पड़ेगा। फिर आखिरी दिन वो शेरपा साथ दिया तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह वो शेरपा के ने बहुत सपोर्ट किया, शेरपा ने भी। विंड भी बहुत ज़्यादा था तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह समिट हो गया उस वजह से। इस माउंटेन इज़ नॉट डिफरेंट, मुश्किल वो भी है, मुश्किल ये भी है। यहाँ पे लोग कहते हैं कि माउंट एवरेस्ट बहुत आसान है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है। यहाँ के जो लोग हैं उन लोगों ने काम किया है, इस वजह से यहाँ पे आसान है। अदरवाइज़ आप ख़ुद से जिस तरीके से हमने क्लाइंबिंग की यहाँ पे, ख़ुद से अगर क्लाइंबिंग करें, आप अपना जूता खुद पहने, अपने लिए पानी खुद बनाएं, अपने लिए रूट खुद बनाएं, तो ये बहुत आसान काम नहीं है। क्योंकि मैंने देखा है एवरेस्ट के अंदर, एवरेस्ट का कैंप 4 तक, बेस कैंप से कैंप 4 से समिट इतना ही डिस्टेंस बराबर है। तो डेथ जोन के अंदर आप 6-7 घंटा 12 घंटा आप रहते हैं, आसान नहीं है। तो हर पहाड़ का अपना एक खेल है। जैसा K2 है, K2 के ऊपर एवलांच वगैरह होते हैं, आइस फॉल होता है, रॉक गिरता है। यहाँ पे ये नहीं होता, लेकिन उसके बदले में फिर इसकी हाई बहुत ज़्यादा है, बहुत ज़्यादा हाई है और लंबा बहुत ज़्यादा है। तो इंसान है बहरहाल, वो क्या कहते हैं कि तकलीफ़ होती है हर जगह पे, हर पहाड़ का अपनी एक तकलीफ़ है। तो बहरहाल ये मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस था। मैंने बहुत कुछ सीखा यहाँ पे नेपाल में आके, क्योंकि यहाँ पे जिस तरीके से लोग काम करते हैं, इवन बेस कैंप से लेके टॉप तक जो लोग काम करते हैं, अगर इस तरीके से अगर हम कोशिश करें पाकिस्तान के अंदर, अगर हमारे जो क्लाइंट्स हैं इंटरनेशनल लेवल के जो क्लाइंट्स आते हैं उनके लिए इस तरीके से प्रोफेशनल तरीके से हम अगर खिदमत करें तो डेफिनेटली पाकिस्तान के अंदर भी बहुत ज़्यादा टूरिज़म आ सकता है। क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पे एक पाकिस्तान के अंदर एक चीज़ की कमी है कि प्रोफेशनल लोग बहुत कम हैं। यानी जैसा माउंटेन गाइड्स है ही नहीं कोई, मतलब सरबाज वगैरह जो अभी जो नए लड़का है, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अगर आने वाले 2-3 साल में ये एक आध होंगे। तो हमें इनिशियल स्टेज पे यहाँ पे किसी तरीके से हमें कोई ऐसा एक्सेस मिल जाए कि हमें कोई ट्रेनिंग्स मिल जाए, जिस तरीके से यहाँ पे लोग काम करते हैं इसी तरीके से अगर हम पाकिस्तान में भी थोड़ा सा अवेयरनेस के साथ अगर हमें 1 साल की अगर ट्रेनिंग दे दे तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारे लोग भी बहुत ज़्यादा तगड़े हैं। तो क्योंकि जो क्लाइंट जो है वो सर्टिफिकेशन देखता है, तो वो देखता है कि कितना ट्रेंड है और कितना मरतबा इसके पास एक्सपीरियंस है। तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह एक्सपीरियंस तो हम लोगों के पास भी बहुत है, लेकिन सर्टिफिकेशन नहीं होने की वजह से मतलब फॉरेनर जो है जो हमारे पर ट्रस्ट कम करता है। तो ज़्यादातर पाकिस्तान के अंदर भी नेपाल से जो शेरपाज है उनको लेके आते हैं और उनके ऊपर ज़्यादा ट्रस्ट किया जाता है, हमारे ऊपर ट्रस्ट कम किया जाता है।
I like it when someone says you looks like a Sherpa, or you say that some or says you are like a Sherpa, you're like strong with Sherpa. I'm very happy because in this world, in this our climbing community, Sherpas like brand. Yeah. So I'm very happy when someone says you looks like Sherpa, or you are like Sherpa. Oh yeah, in 2021, in COVID time, he said, oh, Nepali or Pakistani passport. I said, oh, come on, man. I'm from Pakistan. So yeah, my look is like a Tibetan, and my mother from Skardu, and yeah, I climbed my first 8,000 is Nanga Parbat with Sherpas. Or maybe Imaji is the first K2 winter summiter. And I'm lucky I climbed with Imaji my first 8,000. Even I start my climbing career with Sherpas. So till now, I think 90% of my 8,000ers are climbing career with Sherpas. So most of my climbs with Nepali Sherpas in Pakistan, Nepal, and in Tibet, China. Like Tikcha, like this, yeah. Yeah, I feel when I come to Nepal, I feel like my second home, to be honest. All Sherpas, even 80% of Sherpas, they know me, and I have a good relation with the Sherpas, they respect. I think who are living in the mountains, almost same culture, same honesty, and yeah, little bit food is a little bit different, but yeah, I think who are living on the mountains, connect with nature, so both are the same, but so we need to extend our seasons, like autumn. We have good autumn and spring also, but we have no qualified climbers, guides, so we need to work on this, and then yes, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, because when I start my climbing career in 2016-17, and I climbed my first 8,000er Nanga Parbat, that time I announced Mission Summit 14 without oxygen. But later on Annapurna, Kanchenjunga and Everest, the last part, I feel the weather was very bad and strong winds. I use oxygen. So I repeat this year these 3 peaks, like K2 in last year, Annapurna and Kanchenjunga this season. So I'm very happy. This is the big, I think, in adventure tourism, like in climbing. You can say it's a FIFA World Cup, like when you are climbing without oxygen, without Sherpa. But we help. We need without Sherpa's help. You can say without Sherpa. So without oxygen, I complete my Mission Summit 14 and become first Pakistani. This is not for me or not my family. It's like, this record for whole Pakistan. So I'm feeling very proud. To be honest, after 8 years, after 8 years, I complete my big dream. I think this is sometime when I remember my all past and my climbing career, I feel very different because I came as a kitchen boy, as a porter. I worked as a kitchen boy 6-7 years when I was in college. So after 8 years, when I complete my Mission Summit 14, it looks like a dream. It looks like of course different experience because it's involved weather, it's terrain, But it's most difficult is of course Kanchenjunga and Annapurna here in Nepal, in Pakistan K2 and Nanga Parbat. So every peak have different terrain, different hardness, or its difficult level is different. Manaslu is like I think easiest mountain in Mission Summit 14, like in Pakistan G2 and Manaslu in Nepal is easiest. Sometimes it's like 2 years, 3 years ago, it's the BKO launch cam and our team, 3 Sherpas injured. Sometimes it's mountain is mountain. We can't fight against the nature. Sometimes happen. Every mountain is like a difficult level is different. But sometimes easy. You can say this is easy, but it's like remember in Shishapama last year in 2023. Big accident there, and Gina from US, Anna, and one of the Lama, one of the best climber in Nepal, we lost. Sometimes it's happened like this. If you have manpower, Annapurna first. Between Camp 2 and Camp 3, you can't understand what happened. When you are climbing between Camp 2 and Camp 3, sometimes your breath level is like, I can't explain because I climbed 2 times, so I feel inside. So I climbed 3 times K2, but I think in Pakistan we have very strong climbers, but like trainings, even here in Nepal, I think 3-4 big like NNMGA, IFMGA. Like this institute, but in Pakistan, till now, single person we have not certified, IFMJ certified. But I think in Nepal, 80 plus IFMJ guides. So we need collaboration with Nepal or like Norway. So we need to establish some good institutes, schools, training schools. Then hopefully we have in future we improve in climbing and in tourism department. Nepal is like really they make good rules and regulations for tourists. What you need, is freedom. Everything is available. Yeah, every year more people. I saw more climbers visiting Nepal, and more ability. Like IFMGA guides, more they add every year like 5, 6. So this is a good sign for Nepal to boost adventure tourism in Nepal. In starting days, I faced very difficult because I have no sponsors. But Migmaji is like my brother. He helped me a lot, and yes, if I'm here this time in Nepal, and I into because of him, he's helped like his brother. And Alhamdulillah, I hard worker, and God give me a opportunity, and He give me success one by one, and now I am here. And after my 6th peak, I got first sponsors, local sponsor from Pakistan. Then till now I have because before 6th I visited 2 times in Nepal, once Manaslu, once Lhotse. So that time Migmaji gave me an opportunity to come to Nepal and climb with my company, and I already 2 trainings from here, me and Abdul Joshi and Suhail from Pakistan. So in future, yes. But now I am getting old, so my plan is like this. I want to introduce IFMGA in Pakistan, the most important thing. We have no single one, IFMGA certified single one. So we need to establish some schools, some training centers. And I work with as a guide. It's different question. I think so. I don't like even too much branding, but I work as a ground level to establish one school and more people to involve in climbing, because we have potential. We have 5,000 or 6,000 and 7,000, even in Pakistan, unclimbed peaks also. So I want to try to establish one good school, and my some yes, I have some. I already start my book. So we are thinking about also a documentary, good documentary, not like maybe 20% little bit up and down, but 80% I want natural to try natural, not like fake. Good friend, my partner, Saad Munawar, he's just 3 days before he climbed from north side, Everest. He's the first Pakistani to climb from north side. From north side. So he's a nice writer also. So we together. So from when humans are approached and interfere in the nature, there was. But we need to clean, because you saw nowadays last 3-4 years climate change, like we don't understand what happened on whole. But we have big glaciers. The most affected areas, I think, in Nepal and Pakistan, because we have big glaciers like Siachen, Himalaya here, Siachen, Baltoro, Biafo. So we need to protect also our glaciers.
Pakistani climbers today here, and this is also a shared heritage of Pakistan and Nepal, that out of 14 8,000ers, 13 of us, 13 we share between us, and K2 and Everest You can see on the plaque that is also on the right on my wall that we share this heritage. And recently I also congratulate Nepal for holding Sagarmatha Samvad, which highlighted that ecology and the mountains' fragile ecology is not a given, and we need to do something to protect it. And in doing so, I think we celebrate our climbers, and we also celebrate those who are preserving it and the geography of the region. Climbers, some of them are here, they can also join them, and then they can have a joint expedition both to K2 and Everest.
Nepal is a country well known for the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, and the birthplace of Lord Buddha, the pioneer of peace. This is a country equally graced by the beauty of natural scenery and cultural riches. Unity in diversity, immense tolerance, and confluence of coexistence, Nepal is a country of its own uniqueness. Lord Buddha, the pioneer of non-violence, tolerance, and peace, was born on the full moon day in Lumbini in 623 BC. Peace, compassion, mercy, tolerance, and salvation are the perennial paths of Buddhism that lead or have been leading mankind to complete freedom and welfare of all humankind. Lord Buddha taught the world to engage more on spiritual contemplation following those paths. Buddhism has indeed become a new way to most sought peace and prosperity. Thus, Lumbini has been growing into a sacred destination not only for Buddhists but also for peace lovers and spiritual practitioners. The life story and its supporting remnants related to the childhood life of Prince Siddhartha Gautam can still be seen and heard in Kapilvastu. The sacred historical bits and pieces attached to King Suddhodana, the father of Lord Buddha, which are of archaeological significance, will speak of Kapilvastu as an open museum. The remnant of eastern gate of the compound of King Suddhodana's palace was the main gate to the premises. You can witness here the entrance gates in all 4 directions, and indeed countless remains lying on your left and right, and back and front, bearing historical significance. In ancient time, the area was even known as Kapilvastu as today it is, but later the place was also called Pilalakot. According to Buddhist books and literature, Devdaha in Rupanderi district was homeland of Lord Buddha's maternal uncle and father-in-law as well. The bricks used to build homes are still lying plenty scattered there, and to your wonder, some bricks even weigh 12 kilograms. There is another place called Kudan, which is within the district headquarters of Taulihawa. And legend has that here, King Suddhodan encountered his son Siddhartha for the first time after the latter was enlightened to Buddha. This place was also called Nigrodhara, which is now surrounded by the remnants of stupas. Similarly, this was the very place where Buddha's stepmother, Gautami Prajapati, handed monk's dress over to Lord Buddha. Likewise, Ramgram in Nawalparasi district is the place where a stupa of Lord Buddha's cool bone was built after his parinirvana demise. Excavation is still undergoing in this place. Kapilvastu, Lumbini, Ramgram and Devdaha are therefore indelible places highly attached to the life of Lord Buddha. Kapilvastu was the kingdom of Sakya, Lord Buddha's clan, whereas Ramgram and Devdaha were of Koliyas. And the two states were bordered by Rohini River, some 27 kilometers east. To Kapilvastu was Lumbini, which was at that time densely cocooned by sal and ashok trees and was popularly known as Sacred Garden. Buddhist tales say once when Buddha's mother Mayadevi was journeying to her parental home, Mayadevi, she experienced delivery symptoms. Gripping a branch of a tree, she gave birth to Prince Siddhartha. According to some old Buddhist literature, the birth of Prince Siddhartha bore several symptoms and well indicated that the newborn baby was not a common birth, but a birth of a dignified, spiritual, and an incarnate. Legend has that the newborn baby walked 7 steps far immediately after it was off mother's womb. Moreover, the new baby uttered the following revelations: I would be the first among the mortals to go beyond passing through this worldly web. This is my last birth. Rebirth never happens with me again. Prince Siddhartha lived an affluent life of 29 years at Kapilvastu Palace. But when he tried to penetrate and see close to the eternal truth of life, then he started contemplating on life. Why does a man become old? Why does he suffer from different diseases? Why does he die? These were the pertinent questions that haunted him most. Driven by divine spirit to find ultimate truth, he decided to renounce royal life. One night, he left his family, friends, and palace to seek salvation and eternal truth. Roaming several days, he reached Bodh Gaya of India, and there under a peepal tree, he had gone for meditation and became Buddha. He gave his first religious preaching in Sarnath in Varanasi, India. He talked about eternal truth, human duty, peace, and the path of salvation there, and earned a number of followers. Buddha underwent parinirvana, death, at the age of 80 in Kushinagar. Addressing his followers just before his parinirvana, Lord Buddha said, my devotees will visit and throng around the places where I took birth, where I was enlightened, where I first delivered my preaching, and where I got parinirvana. So, Lumbini, saturated by Lord Buddha's peace-loaded messages for over ages, has been the most sacred religious sites for many, if not only for Buddhists. Today, the Buddhists and the followers of Buddhism and peace lovers of the world over visit Lumbini to pay homage to Lord Buddha and feel and get familiar to his brainchild, peace. King Ashoka, a staunch supporter of Buddha, visited Lumbini in 249 BC and built a pillar quite near to Buddha's nativity site. The Ashoka pillar bears an inscription that says, Buddha was born here. Lumbini is not only an attractive tourism hub today, but it's also a live state of historical and archaeological significance. To preserve Lumbini, the government of Nepal and Japan Buddhist Association have jointly launched the excavation since 1992. Lumbini had undergone negligence of both government and non-government entities for centuries. Planned and coordinated effort began only in 1953. The United Nations appointed famous Japanese professor and engineer Kenjo Tange to make a master plan for the development of Lumbini. The government of Nepal accepted the proposed master plan in 1978. To develop Lumbini according to the master plan, the government of Nepal established Lumbini Development Fund in 1985. According to the master plan, Lumbini Development Region has been divided into 3 zones. At the meantime, several phases of development have also been adopted. In first zone comes Sacred Garden. Second, Zone of Stupas. And in third comes New Lumbini Village. It is expected that the Sacred Garden will create a kind of aura, ensuring peaceful ambience, natural serenity, and religious sacredness to its visitors, in which they can feel deep Lord Buddha's message of peace and compassion. The very core of Lumbini Garden is the nativity site of Buddha. The plain bas relief of Maya Devi, which is supposed to be about 17 to 1800 years old, and depicts the nativity scene, has been put in the newly renovated temple. Near the temple lies Sakya Kund, sacred pond, where Maya Devi was supposed to have taken bath before giving birth to Buddha. Zone of Stupas is another important feature of Lumbini Master Plan, within which territory countries, international associations, and devotees of world over can build stupas of their own in dedication to Lord Buddha. Moreover, the zone of stupas has been divided into 2. In the western part, the followers of Mahayana sect are building their stupas, whereas eastern part is dominated by Theravada sect. This zone of stupas has 41 geographic subdivisions in which various countries, organizations, and devotees have been building chortens, monasteries, and stupas respectively. With a view to carry study and research on Buddhism and its inherent philosophy, a cultural studies center has been set up in Lumbini. The study center has museum, library, and archives in which you can find Buddhism-related books, literature, arts, and other valuable materials. Similarly, Lumbini International Research Center has been set up, which provides materials and other needed support to researchers of other religion, philosophy, and culture. There is also a library for those who want to study about peace and religion. Another major attraction of Lumbini is its eternal flame, which is placed in Shanti Kunj Peace Arbor. The flame was ignited on the occasion of the International Peace Year in 1985. The flame can be considered as bold symbol to keep Lord Buddha's peace messages alive. Lumbini village is the exterior part of Lumbini Master Plan, where various facilities of lodging and fooding for the visitors are catered in depending on their capacities. There are a number of cheap and affordable rest houses to moderate ones and luxury hotels laced by all modern amenities. A peace stupa has been built in the northern side of Lumbini. It is the tallest stupa in the area. The story of the greatness of Lord Buddha's birthplace, Lumbini, is not an imagined story of a next world. Lumbini, in fact, is the most sacred place which can emanate peace, friendship, kindness, compassion, and feeling of coexistence to all people of all ages. This is a destination to inward peace, a holy place for enlightenment. Indeed, the sacredness of Lumbini existed in the past too. It is today too, and it will be tomorrow too.
What would be an ideal step-by-step thing that we could do to make sure all our financial activities of the government and everything is transparent and that we deal with corruption?
It is our collective responsibility, right? It is not going to be, when we say step-by-step, what may easily come to our mind is, okay, have policy in place, enforce it, right? Have maybe a stronger punishment mechanism, and that's going to work. Of course it will. Well, that needs to happen. But then there's more steps that we need to take if we really want to get into that.
Nepal's Election Commission calls registration for PR election. PM Karki reassures political parties of timely election. Six-party alliance secures a majority in the Madhya Provincial Parliament. Krishna Prasad Yadav appointed Chief Minister of the province. Nepal marks World Soil Day as new data shows over half the arable land unfit for farming. Soil quality raises food and security risks. Nepal's music legend Narayan Gopal remembered on his 35th Memorial Day. Artists reflect on his unmatched emotional depth and enduring musical legacy. Russia's President Putin offers India uninterrupted fuel supplies amid US pressure. Indian PM Modi and Putin to expand bilateral cooperation. And Lumbini Lions book its spot in 2025 Nepal Premier League playoff, defeating Janakpur Balls by 4 wickets. Hello there, I'm Smitugi Singh Tamang and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours. Now the news in detail. The Election Commission of Nepal has called on political parties to submit applications to contest under the proportional representation category for the March 5 House of Representatives election. Applications will be accepted from December 7 to 9 at the Commission's Kantipath office, where Secretary Mahadev Pantha has been appointed election officer. The list of applicant parties will be published on December 10. Parties must submit their PR closed lists on December 28 and 29, while the final list will be released on January 20, 2026. For the first-past-the-post system, nominations open on January 20 with objections, withdrawals and symbol distribution completed by January 23. Meanwhile, preparations are also underway for the National Assembly election on January 25 as political parties ramp up activities with 90 days left for the HOR polls. Prime Minister Sushila Karge has called for collective effort to ensure the success of the March 5 election. Addressing a multilateral meeting at her official residence in Baluatar, attended by leaders of major political parties and Gen Z representatives, the Prime Minister said, if all 26 registered parties stand confident about the polls, no external force can disrupt the process. Prime Minister Karge clarified that although the government emerged from the Gen Z movement, it is not against political parties and is fully committed to conducting the election and handing over power through a democratic process. The meeting also heard briefings from the Election Commission on preparations and from security agencies on overall security arrangements for the upcoming polls. Krishna Prasad Yadav, the Nepali Congress Parliamentary Party leader in Madhya Province, has been appointed Chief Minister. Province Chief Dr. Surendra Lab appointed Yadav under Article 168, Clause 2 of Nepal's constitution with support from a six-party coalition holding 77 seats in the Provincial Assembly. The new government was formed after former Chief Minister Saroj Kumar Yadav of the CPN-UML resigned on December 3. The newly appointed Chief Minister has received support from Nepali Congress, Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal, Janamat Party, CPN Maoist Centre, Lokatantrik Samajwadi Party Nepal and CPN Unified Socialist. Nepal observed the 12th World Soil Day today, with alarming new data showing that more than 54% of the country's arable land is now unsuitable for farming due to increasing soil acidity, declining organic matter and widespread erosion. At a national event held in Kumaltar, soil experts warned that land degradation is accelerating from the Tarai Plains to the mid-hills, driven by the overuse of chemical fertilizers, improper land management and climate-induced stress. Specialists emphasize the urgent need for regular soil testing, greater use of organic fertilizers, crop rotation and effective erosion control measures to restore soil health and reduce future risks to food security. Today marks the 35th Memorial Day of Narayan Gopal Guruvacharya, who established his distinct name in the musical field of Nepal by giving voice to songs reflecting love, social values, life experience and cultural feelings. Narayan Gopal is revered from the title of Swar Samrat, literally translated as King of the Voices, in recognition of his magical voice and musical crafts. Songs like Lau Sunama Banchu, Mero Ram Kahani, Porki Base Aula Bhani, Timro Jasto Mutu Mero Pani, among others, are popular among the people. The Narayan Gopal Music Fund, established at Maharajganj after the demise of the eminent playback singer and musician Narayan Gopal, organized various programs to commemorate him today. Russia is ready to provide uninterrupted shipments of fuel to India. President Vladimir Putin said during a joint media briefing with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his visit to the country. The announcement comes as the United States imposed an additional 25% tariff on India over its purchases of Russian oil, arguing that these transactions fund Moscow's war in Ukraine. During the briefing, Putin and Modi also highlighted recently signed cooperation agreements, with Modi noting the opening of new Indian consulates in Russia. Amid ongoing U.S. efforts to broker peace, Putin reiterated that Ukraine must withdraw from the Donbas region, warning that Russia would otherwise seize it. Lumbini Lions have clinched a spot in the 2025 Nepal Premier League playoffs after defeating Janakpur Bulls by 4 wickets. Chasing 133, Lumbini reached their target in 19.1 overs, led by captain Rohit Paudel's 34 off 32, with support from Darcy Shot's 30 off 24 and JJ Smith's 21 off 19. Janakpur, who scored 132 for 6 in their 20 overs, were anchored by Sangeet Kurei's 45 off 38. For Lumbini, Paudel and Sher Malla took 2 wickets each, helping lift the team to 4th place with 8 points, securing a playoff berth. Janakpur Bulls, with just 2 points from 6 matches, are now out of contention. 3 league games remain before qualifiers begin on Tuesday. Today, as we observe World Soil Day, we focus on the urgent need for healthy soils to support food security and urban resilience. With this year's theme, Healthy Soils for Healthy Cities, we spotlight sustainable soil management in the face of urban challenges. More in this in our issue of the day. Welcome back. You're with NTV World News Hour. World Soil Day is being observed today, highlighting the critical importance of healthy soils for food security, ecosystems, and human well-being. This year's theme, Healthy Soils for Healthy Cities, focuses on sustainable urban soil management to address challenges like flooding, heat, and pollution in rapidly growing cities. Celebrated worldwide, the day on December 5 aims to raise awareness about soil threats such as degradation and sealing, while promoting sustainable practices, green spaces, and better urban planning to protect and restore soils for future generations. Meanwhile, Nepal also marked the 12th World Soil Day today, as new data reveals that over 54% of the country's arable land is now unsuitable for farming due to increasing soil acidity, declining organic matter, and widespread erosion. At an event in Kumaltar, soil experts warned that degradation is accelerating from the Tarai Plains to the mid-hills, driven by overuse of chemical fertilizers, poor land management, and climate stress, and called for organic fertilizers, crop rotation, and erosion control measures to restore soil health and ensure food security. Subeksha Razak brings more.
In an agricultural country, Nepal, more than 54% of the arable land is unsuitable for farming. The date was revealed as the global market of the World Soil Day. The World Soil Day, celebrated every year on December 5th, aims to raise public awareness about the importance of sustainable soil management. Nepal, still an agricultural country, saw various programs organized under the national slogan, Healthy Soils for Healthy Cities. This year marks the 12th World Soil Day since its formal commencement in 2014. The theme highlights how healthy soil is the foundation for cities that can withstand climate change and support biodiversity. It addresses challenges like soil sealing, pollution, and urban expansion that threaten urban soils' benefits. It promotes solutions such as de-sealing, green roofs, urban farming, and sustainable urban planning to create greener and healthier cities. At a program held at National Soil Research Center, Kumaltar, experts pointed out major issues including use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers that is degrading the fertility of soil. Dr. Shri Prasad Vishta, Chief of the National Soil Science Research Center said preserving healthy soil is the present challenge.
Soil is life, and life is soil. Without soil, you cannot imagine any form of life on earth. So soil is the basis for the existence, for the life. So if we don't have good soil, if the soil is dead, that means there is no life on it. So in order to sustain life on earth, healthy soil is important. Generally, in order to make soil healthy, we have to, improve the organic matter content of the soil. We have to improve the water holding capacity of the soil. We have to improve porosity as well as all those physical as well as chemical and even the biological properties of the soil.
According to experts, the state of soil in Nepal is serious. Data from the digital soil map shows that nearly 54% of Nepal's arable land is acidic, which is not sustainable for farming. Similarly, the amount of organic matter is low in most places, which has weakened the soil's fertility. Soil erosion is another challenge that the hilly area of Nepal is prone to. Soil experts have emphasized the need for measures such as regular soil testing, use of organic fertilizers, adoption of scientific crop rotation, adoption of erosion control technology, and pollution control to improve soil health. Strengthening soil fertility and handing over healthy soil to future generation is the main essence of 12th World Soil Day.
Unseasonal rain and floods in October-November cost more than 6.5 billion Nepali rupees, which is approximately $49 million in losses to Nepal's agriculture sector, a development that experts say reinforces concerns raised on World Soil Day about the country's worsening soil health. According to the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, the biggest damage was to paddy, with over 30,841 hectares affected, resulting in an estimated 7% drop in national output. More than 1,300 hectares of vegetable crops were destroyed, along with losses in millet, sugarcane, cardamom, ginger, tea, coffee, pulses, fish and grasslands. The losses come just as soil scientists warned on World Soil Day that 54% of Nepal's arable land is acidic and soil fertility is deteriorating due to erosion, chemical overuse and climate-driven extreme weather. In this context, today we ask the public how we can preserve soil fertility. This in our public poll segment.
We are taking a lot from the soil. We are not giving back enough. So to keep our soils healthy, we have to balance that give and take by adding good amounts of chemical fertilizers as well as organic fertilizers. We have to make our soils healthy, and to make our soils healthy, we have to protect the organic matter content of the soil.
Using the chemical fertilizer and so on, pesticide and something else, then the soil quality goes to degrade. Then the production will decrease, the soil quality decrease, then the production quality decrease, productivity decrease. So we have to conserve soil nutrition, soil fertility, soil organic matter in soil to make the soil healthy for healthy production, for healthy humans, and for healthy lives.
We need to stop using indiscriminate use of chemical pesticide, even fertilizers, and we need to use rationally all organic and inorganic materials so that we can sustainably use this precious gift of nature.
प्रशस्त मात्रामा माटोमा प्राङ्गारिक पदार्थहरू बढाउने कामहरू गर्नुपर्छ, रासायनिक मलहरू कम गर्ने र प्राङ्गारिक पदार्थहरू यसमा बढाउने खालका हामीले गोठे मल लगायत अर्ग्यानिक म्याटरहरू मिसाउनु पर्छ, जसले गर्दा माटोको उर्वर शक्ति
as from the organic farming and other safe food production farming, like good agriculture practices and other things. These types of techniques, we can save our soil.
We're going for a quick break once again. Do stay with us. Welcome back. On the 35th Memorial Day of the legendary singer Narayan Gopal, we reflect on his timeless music that continues to transcend generations. While today's youth seem to drift from classic songs, Gopal's voice remains an enduring symbol of Nepali musical heritage. Explore how his melodies have evolved, yet stayed true to their essence in our cover story. Today marks the 35th Memorial Day of Narayan Gopal Guruvacharya, who carved a distinct place in Nepal's music scene by giving voice to songs that reflected love, social values, life experiences and cultural sentiments. Revered with the title of Swar Samrat, literally translated as the King of Voices, Narayan Gopal is celebrated for his magical voice and exceptional musical artistry. Popular songs such as Lau Sunama Bhanchu Mero Ram Kahani, Parki Base Aula Bhani, and Timro Jasto Mutu Mero Pani continue to resonate with listeners across generations. To honor his legacy, the Narayan Gopal Music Fund, established in Maharajganj after the singer's passing, organized a series of commemorative programs today.
Just around 100 songs, but the voice resonates beyond centuries as the epitome of Nepali music. Narayan Gopal Guruvacharya, adorned as the Swar Samrat or the melodic king of the country, passed away on this date 35 years ago. On his 35th Memorial Day, Nepali music fraternity paid heartfelt tributes to the legend, but with little concern. Narayan Gopal Music Trust at Maharajganj, Kathmandu led the celebration amid digital-savvy new generations' indifference to the legacies. Narayan Gopal's voice still resonates in the ears and hearts of Nepali music lovers of the Gen X and Gen Y in the purest form. However, the younger generations exposed to the cover and remixed versions might not bother much on the legacy. Among the 100+ songs of Narayan Gopal, almost all are major hits. Known as a perfectionist in his choice of lyrics, Narayan Gopal sang modern Nepali songs in his early part of his career before taking to playback singing.
And he was a good composer for duet songs also. He composed Ekansa Thataima Yo Baise Jana Lagyo, which one is rendered more than 358 second song, but it was most popular in Radio Nepal, Farmaisi Giti Karikram. And when Narayan Gopal was crowned as an poet singer by Madan Puraskar Pustakale, those days he had established himself singing in ballet, opera, musical drama, and he established himself as a Nepali singer who can lead a kind of heroism kind of songs in Nepali modern song.
Narayan Gopal's identity was not just limited to singing. The legend was also good at composing music and writing lyrics, for which he was awarded multiple times by Radio Nepal. Narayan Gopal being the one and only modern Nepali singer to have received the prestigious Jagadamba Shri Puraskar in 1988 speaks of its contribution in Nepali music.
He set up the train of the ghazal, modern singing and folk flavor songs, and especially he was one of the good playback singer in Nepali filmdom. He had sang for a lot of Nepali color movies and black and white movies. He started his career as an instrument player. He was a tabla player. Later on, he changed his profession as a singer, and he became a first time one of the best singer of the Radio Nepal in Bikram Sambat 2023. And later on, he became best composer in 2024. And he sang more than 134 songs. Those all are vivid songs, and they are different colors and different aspirant those songs have.
Narayan Gopal is not just a nostalgic voice, he is a timeless, soulful presence that resonates across generations. There may be singers with greater technical mastery, but what made Narayan Gopal incomparable was his ability to mirror and articulate diverse emotions. His name, therefore, stands as a milestone in Nepali music. Narayan Gopal breathed his last on 1990 December 5 at the age of 51 in Kathmandu. His musical legacy is still breathing in the hearts and minds of Nepali music lovers and will continue for generations to come. Camera person Samir Thapa, Virat Anupam, reporting for Public Service Broadcasting, NTV World, Kathmandu.
Well, that was a beautiful story commemorating Swar Samrat, the legendary singer Narayan Gopal Guruvacharya, on the occasion of the 35th Memorial Day of Gopal by our colleague Virat Anupam. Now moving on, exploring the enduring legacy of Narayan Gopal, why the younger generation must connect with the Swar Samrat's timeless music. We now have a conversation with Mr. Azhar Jangam, a lecturer at Ratnarajya campus of the Tribhuvan University. Mr. Jangam.
Yes, hello, namaskar.
Can you hear me, Mr. Jangam?
Should I start talking?
Yes, Mr. Jangam, can you hear me?
Okay. Why should the younger generation listen to Narayan Gopal? First of all, he's not just a singer. He is the cultural icon or cultural identity of Nepal. He's a person who has more hits. People always go for multiple things like कति धेरै चीज छ कति धेरै गायो how many songs he has sung but he has a lesser quantity but bigger quality, we can say that. And not only that, his every work carries the emotions, struggles, joys, and also one thing, Nepal should respect him as he is from the respectable era. Adhunik music started from his time. So यो पनि के हो र त्योदेखि बाहेक पनि अब के चाहिँ लर्न गर्न सकिन्छ भन्दाखेरि what people can learn from Narayan Gopal is that they learn the roots, they learn the discipline. Narayan Gopalको के चिजले गर्दा Narayan Gopal भनेको त्यो चिज the rootहरु चिन्न सकिन्छ. Not only that, अलिकति bit of rigidity as well, because हुन्छ नि केही rigidity ले चाहिँ मान्छेलाई चाहिँ बनाउँछ पनि र त्योदेखि बाहेक भनौं न सबभन्दा बेस्ट पार्ट चाहिँ he has the pure art. यो आर्टको चाहिँ प्योरिटी चाहिँ उहाँको गीतबाट सिक्न सक्छ. र त्योदेखि बाहेक लिरिकल पोएट्री र त्यसैगरी इमोसनल एक्सप्रेसन यो सबै चिजहरु
if I may interrupt, Mr. Jangam.
Sorry. Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
I didn't listen to you.
Okay, I'll just would like to jump to another question. I know you have already covered it in the first question, but Narayan Gopal shaped generations of listeners. Why is his voice still unmatched in Nepal's musical history?
First of all, is that his selection of work, right? सबभन्दा पहिला selection of work, because अहिलेको जमानामा in this environment, people get polluted pretty easily, and I've told you again. The same thing I'm going to tell again, that he was pretty much rigid in what he wants. He wants, and that is what he gets, you know. And अर्को कुरा चाहिँ his selection of the best work, you know. He has worked with the best poets and best compositions. यो कुराले गर्दा पनि Narayan Gopalको चाहिँ आइडेन्टिटी चाहिँ एकदमै छ. र what else भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ different स्टाइलहरु people can learn from him, because he has mastery in different kind of genres. Like he has worked in jazz, like Malai Nosota. There is a form of jazz in this music as well. He has done many movies as well, musicals in the movies. He was a master in classical types as well, and in his earlier work, you can listen to like Sorgo Kirani and these kind of songs. I'll give pop melody पनि सुन्न सकिन्छ. So whatever he did in his work, उसमा चाहिँ every kind of genre मा चाहिँ उनको expertise we can see. So यो चीज पनि the younger generation can learn भनौं न. पनि जस्तो लाग्छ. अरु भन्दा किन राम्रो भयो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ फेरि पहिलो कुरा चाहिँ एउटा rigidity भयो र त्योदेखि बाहेक he already was an expert in so many different styles of music, and then his quality that.
Okay, talking about a different style of music, how can the younger generation stay connected to his music in a rapidly changing digital world?
Sorry, can I listen to your question once again?
How can the younger generation stay connected to his music in a rapidly changing digital world?
You think what is daring? But मैले बुझे I'll try to improvise. सबभन्दा पहिला त preservation of his music is the most important thing. अब जस्तै पुरानो चीजहरुलाई चाहिँ older thingsहरुलाई चाहिँ अब digitizeहरु गर्नेदेखि लिएर चाहिँ भयो र त्योदेखि बाहेक चाहिँ what they can do is create many programs. As Narayan Gopal is the most important part of the musical history, whatever you start, Narayan Gopal is included in that thing. So, what else we can do is that universities can include research programs on him. Government are they should also collaborate because he is an icon. Then त्यो कुराहरुदेखि लिएर चाहिँ अब त्यही हो अब किन टाइम मुभ्स अन त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दा इम्प्रोभाइजेसनहरु पनि हुन्छ तर कस्तो हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ whatever the improvisation if each songs comes त्यो गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ जो प्योर मान्छेहरु छ जो प्योर म्युजिशियनहरु उनीहरु रुट्समै जान्छ सो जे गर्दा जसो गर्दा पनि people will know him तर अब अहिलेको जेनेरेसन चाहिँ कस्तो छ मलाई चाहिँ what I feel is that हैन Narayan Gopal भन्ने शब्द के नाम नसुने पनि people may not know his name but they everyone not only सबैजनाले चाहिँ नेपालीले चाहिँ they must have listened many of his songs so he is already a legend.
Okay, and lastly, I think this is already covered, but I'd still like to ask this question: how can the legacy of legendary artists like Narayan Gopal preserved for digital posterity? Should I repeat the question again?
Oh, yeah, please.
So we're talking about Narayan Gopal here, and his voice transcends to the generation, but we're talking about the digital archiving here. So how can the legacy of legendary artists like Narayan Gopal preserved for digital posterity, for the digital generations?
High quality it should be preserved and repeat like starting of shows doing any shows is the most important thing very spread like notation writing recording technology कस्तो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ कति कुरा चाहिँ क्ल्यारिटीहरुतिर दिन लाई चाहिँ त्यसलाई चाहिँ टर्नओभर गर्न सक्छ लाइक अनि अब गभर्नमेन्टहरुले चाहिँ छुट्टै त्यो किसिमको चाहिँ लाइक अपर्चुनिटीहरु क्रिएट गरेर लाइक यो सबै कुरालाई चाहिँ डिजिटाइज गर्ने र उसको भएको मल्टिपल सङ्ग्सहरु जस्ट लाइक म फर एक्जाम्पल दिन चाहन्छु स्टेज वर्क्सहरु पनि धेरै छ धेरै चाहिँ सबैले चाहिँ रेकर्डेड वर्क्सहरु मात्रै सुनेको छ भने कति स्टेज वर्कहरु पनि कतिवटा आउँदैछ आई बीन हियरिङ फ्यू अफ द स्टेज वर्क I've been hearing few of his newer songs as well, the ones that people are not aware of. You saw this organizing I think this will do our work, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Jangam, for joining with us. That was a wonderful insight about Swar Samrat Narayan Gopal.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, that was Mr. Azhar Jangam, lecturer at Ratnarajya campus and a singer himself. Now, moving on. The Election Commission of Nepal has called on political parties wishing to contest under the Proportional Representation PR category for the House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5 to submit their applications. According to a notice issued today, parties must file applications between 10 a.m. on December 7 and 4 p.m. on December 9 as per the approved election schedule. The Commission has set up an election officer's office at its premises in Kantipath with Secretary Mahadev Panta appointed as election officer. The list of applicant parties will be published on December 10. Parties applying under the PR system must submit their closed list of candidates on December 28 and 29 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., spokesperson Narayan Prasad Bhattrai said. The final publication of the PR closed list is scheduled for January 20, 2026. Under the first past the post FPTP schedule, nominations will be registered on January 20 with the candidate list published the same day. Objections can be filed on January 21, followed by publication of the updated list on January 22. Candidates may withdraw their names on January 23, after which the final list and election symbols will be issued. The Commission is simultaneously preparing for the National Assembly election on January 25 as political parties intensify their activities with 90 days remaining before the HOR elections. Prime Minister Sushila Karki has emphasized that everyone must work together to ensure the success of the election scheduled for March 5. The Prime Minister said this during a multilateral meeting held today at the Prime Minister's residence in Balwatar, attended by leaders of political parties and representatives of the Gen Z movement. Prime Minister Karki said if all 26 registered parties are confident that the election will take place, no external force will be able to disrupt the same. Prime Minister Karki clarified that although the current government was formed on the foundation of the Gen Z movement, it is not against political parties. She reiterated that the government is determined to conduct the elections, institutionalize the political parties through the electoral process, and hand over power accordingly. She added that the discussion was significant and focused on election-related leaders of Nepali Congress, CPN-UML, Nepal Communist Party, Rashtriya Prajatantra Party, Rashtriya Swatantra Party, officials from the Election Commission, and the heads of security agencies. During the meeting, representatives from the Election Commission briefed participants on the election preparations, while security chiefs provided updates on the security situation. Japan's ambassador to Nepal, Maida Toru, paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Sushila Karki today. Prime Minister's press coordinator Ram Bahadur Rawat said during the meeting held at the office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, matters relating to the celebration of the 70th anniversary of Nepal-Japan relations were discussed. On the occasion, the ambassador applauded the government's resolution to conduct fresh elections for the House of Representatives on the announced date, adding that the government of Japan is ready to extend all possible support to Nepal in its efforts to conduct the elections. In response, the Prime Minister thanked Japan for its contributions to Nepal's development sectors and other areas, expressing her confidence in the continuation of such support in the days to come. Nepal has stressed on the need of glorious journey towards building prosperous society and sustaining development when the least developed countries are transformed into the developing countries. Likewise, Nepal has laid emphasis on extending financial and integrated assistance to the LTCs. At the high-level discussion on Thursday on building a global partnership for the sustainable development of least developed countries, Foreign Secretary Amrit Bahadur Rai emphasized these issues as the chair of the LTC group. The meeting was organized in Doha by the Office of the United Nations High Representative for Least Developed, Landlocked Developing Countries and Small Island Developing States and the Qatar Fund. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, during the meeting, the Foreign Secretary met with Deodat Maharaj, Managing Director of the United Nations Technology Bank for the Least Developed Countries, and conveyed Nepal's expectation of support from the bank to facilitate Nepal's journey from a least developed to a developing country. On that occasion, they also discussed the role of the bank and opportunities for cooperation. International updates and more up next here on NTV World News Hour when we return after the break. Before that, a look into the headlines. Seven-party alliance secures majority in the Madhya Provincial Parliament. Krishna Prasad Yadav appointed Chief Minister of the province. Nepal marks World Soil Day as new data shows over half the arable land unfit for farming. Nepal's music legend Narayan Gopal remembered on his 35th Memorial Day. Artists reflect on his unmatched emotional depth and enduring musical legacy. Russia's President Putin offers India fuel supplies amid US pressure. Indian PM Modi and Putin to expand bilateral cooperation. And Lumbini Lions books its spot in 2025 NPL playoffs, defeating Janakpur Bulls by 4 wickets. Vladimir Putin says Russia stands ready to provide uninterrupted shipments of fuel to India as Delhi faces pressure from Trump to stop buying Moscow's oil. Putin made his comments during a joint media briefing with PM Narendra Modi while on his visit to India. The US hit India with an additional 25% tariff over its purchases of Russian oil, arguing it was funding Moscow's war in Ukraine. Putin and Modi also held cooperation agreements signed before the briefing, with the Indian leader pointing to new consulates opening up in Russia. The visit comes against the backdrop of U.S. efforts to broker peace, but Putin warned again on Thursday that Ukraine must withdraw from the Donbas region or Russia will seize it. China and France have pledged to expand cooperation on global challenges, including the war in Ukraine and international trade, as France prepares to assume the presidency of the Group of Seven G7 next year. French President Emmanuel Macron met with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday in Beijing as part of Macron's three-day state visit focused on diplomacy and economic relations. France is seeking to engage Beijing in efforts to reduce tensions in Ukraine following renewed diplomatic activity surrounding a US-backed peace initiative. Macron emphasized the importance of great power dialogue at a time of growing global instability. Macron added that he hopes China will support calls for a ceasefire in the form of a moratorium on strikes targeting critical infrastructure. Both leaders discussed strengthening cooperation on trade, climate policy, and global governance. 1 year after the ouster of former President Bashar al-Assad, Syria remains in a fragile transition marked by political uncertainty, economic hardship, and lingering security threats. A transitional administration backed by opposition groups and international partners is working to restore services, fight corruption, and prepare for the first national elections in 2 decades. But divisions among political factions continue to slow reforms. Daily life remains difficult as infrastructure damage, inflation, and unemployment keep millions dependent on aid. Although major fighting has eased, armed groups still operate in several regions and border tensions threaten stability. Despite challenges, small signs of recovery are visible, with businesses reopening and community activities returning in parts of Aleppo and Homs. Analysts say Syria's progress now hinges on political compromise, sustained global support, and the public's ability to remain united. As the newly reopened Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, the leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo formally signed the Washington Accords, a peace agreement aimed at ending the escalating conflict in northeastern Congo. The accord commits both sides to a ceasefire, disarmament, and the return of displaced refugees. However, despite the signing ceremony in Washington, clashes continue between Congolese forces and M23, a rebel group widely believed to receive support from Rwanda, an allegation Kigali consistently denies. The White House hailed the deal as a breakthrough that could pave a way for stability and unlock economic opportunities in the Congo's mineral-rich northeast. But regional analysts warn that the agreement may prioritize U.S. geopolitical and economic interests, particularly in critical minerals, over a durable peace on the ground. Despite diplomatic optimism, the situation remains volatile, and observers say genuine stability will require enforcement mechanisms, regional trust building, and accountability for armed groups beyond the text of the accord. Business news comes up next after a short break.
India's travel chaos has worsened after the country's largest airline, Indigo, cancelled hundreds of scheduled flights on Friday after 3 days of widespread disruption across its network. The carrier, which has a 60% market share in India and flies more than 2,000 flights a day, has been facing pilot shortages after it failed to adapt to new crew rostering rules. Thousands of passengers are stranded across India in what's a busy travel season, with all Indigo flights from the capital Delhi cancelled. Indigo has said operations will return to full normalcy only by February 10 and has sought temporary relief on the new rules that call for more rest hours and restricted night duty. The airline has also said it will reduce its flight operations to minimize disruptions from 8th of December. The government has said it is closely monitoring the situation, with the Federal Aviation Minister expressing clear displeasure with how the airline had handled the situation. Bitcoin remains highly volatile, subject to macroeconomic headwinds like shifting interest rate expectations and sentiment swings. The recent dip illustrates how fragile bullish momentum can be, especially when external economic factors weigh on risk assets globally. Yet, the institutional interest from major banks, wealth managers, and large crypto holding firms suggests that many still see Bitcoin not just as a speculative asset, but as a potential long-term store of value or portfolio hedge. At the same time, firms that heavily invested in Bitcoin are under pressure, which adds another layer of uncertainty. If large holders start selling, that could drag prices down further or at least increase volatility. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung met Friday with Japanese tech investment veteran Masayoshi Son, the chairman of SoftBank Group, in Seoul, to deepen cooperation on artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and infrastructure investment. Lee framed AI not merely as a technological domain, but as a foundational public utility on par with water supply, roads, and sewage systems, announcing his ambition to build an AI basic society where every citizen, company, and public organization has at least minimal access to AI tools. As part of that push, the government and SoftBank's chip design arm, ARM Holdings, signed a memorandum to establish an ARM school, a chip design training institution expected to produce about 1,400 semiconductor design specialists. This move aims at strengthening Korea's relatively weak systems semiconductor and fabless sector. The 2024-25 coffee season has just ended with a historic milestone as Vietnam's coffee exports hit a record $8.4 billion, the highest ever. To maintain this momentum in the new 2025-26 season, many coffee companies have already secured funding to purchase raw materials, upgrade and expand their factories, and adopt more advanced processing technologies. These efforts aim to boost export growth and further strengthen the global standing of Vietnamese coffee. With production forecast to rise in major growing areas, the Vietnamese companies are investing in new processing lines to expand its roasted and deeply processed products. The upgrade is designed to meet official export requirements and drive export growth of more than 20% this season.
Time now for the sports update. Lumbini Lions secured a place in the 2025 Nepal Premier League NPL playoffs after defeating Janakpur Bulls by 4 wickets. Chasing a target of 133 runs, Lumbini reached 135 with a loss of 6 in 19.1 overs. Captain Rohit Paudel led the scoring with 34 runs off 32 balls, supported by Darcy Shots 30 off 24 and JJ Smith 21 off 19. For Janakpur Bulls, Sangeet Kure impressed with 3 wickets, while Mayan Yadav and Sanjay Krishnamurthy claimed 2 and 1 wicket respectively. Batting first after winning the toss, Janakpur posted 132 for 6 in 20 overs. Kure top scored with 45 off 38, followed by Mayan Yadav's 27 off 23 and Asif Sheikh's 20 off 17. But Lumbini player of the match Rohit Paudel and Sher Malla took 2 wickets each, with JJ Smith and Ruben Trumpelman adding 1 apiece. The victory lifts Lumbini to 4th place with 8 points from 7 matches, securing their playoff berth. Janakpur, however, are eliminated after 5 losses in 6 matches, leaving them with just 2 points. Sudur Paschim Royals, Kathmandu Gorkhas and Biratnagar Kings have also qualified for the playoffs. 3 league matches remain before qualifiers begin on Tuesday. Tomorrow, Biratnagar Kings face Sudur Paschim Royals, while Chitwan Rhinos take on Pokhara Avengers. The final group stage game will feature Janakpur Bulls versus Karnali Yaks on Sunday. Preparations are underway outside the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. on the eve of the FIFA 2026 World Cup draw, the first edition to feature 48 teams. A final technical checks and staging work are being completed for a ceremony expected to draw global attention as football's largest ever World Cup moves another step closer to kick-off. The most logistically complex World Cup in history is being held across North America from June 11 to July 19 and will feature 48 teams for the first time, 16 more than the 32 nations involved in Qatar in 2022. Now the weather details, first from Nepal and then from across the world. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Nepal's Election Commission calls registration for PR election. PM Kargi reassures political parties of timely election. Six-party alliance secures majority in the Madhesh Provincial Parliament. Krishna Prasad Yadav appointed Chief Minister of the province. Nepal marks World Soil Day as new data shows over half the arable land unfit for farming. Soil quality raises food and security risks. Nepal's music legend Narayan Gopal remembered on his 35th Memorial Day. Artists reflect on his unmatched emotional depth and enduring musical legacy. Russia's President Putin offers India uninterrupted fuel supplies amid US pressure. Indian PM Modi and Putin to expand bilateral cooperation. And Lumbini Lions book its spot in 2025 Nepal Premier League playoffs, defeating Janakpur Bulls by 4 wickets. And that's it for this edition of NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, www.nepaltelevision.com. I'm Smita Gising Thamang signing off. Thank you for staying with us. Good night.